Let me do this for now. But let me get back my more decent. I know you can't hear. I'm so sorry. Good morning. Good morning, Lolo. Turn your mic on. No, it's not. It's not you. It's me. You know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. Hold on. It's this fucking program. That voice mod that has the Elmo voice. That thing is a piece of shit. Wait, let me go ahead and... Dang it. Oh, you did, Hags. That's cool. That's really cool. Let me try and fix this thing. I don't know why. Oh, here we go. Oh, you know what? Let me do this. Hold on. Oh. No. I don't want it. No, we don't want it. We don't want it. Oh, wait, where's my... Oh, here we go. Okay, that should be a little better audio quality. I'm going to turn myself up a little bit. Good morning to everybody. I'm going to delete that POS. Hi, butterflies. Hi, Audrey. Hi, sister. Hi, Badger. Hi, Neil. Hi, Haggard. Hi, Lee. Hi, Kevin. Hi. Anybody else I missed? Good. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for the heads up. This time I was actually looking at chat. That's the key. The key is look at chat. Anyway, good morning, my friends. How are you? Oh, I am let me tell you how I'm feeling. No, I mean I won't spend too much time on it. Hi, Kim. Let me tell you how I'm feeling. I don't know if any of you have arthritis, but if you have arthritis, things happen from time to time. For me, not all the time. I think for other people, it probably happens more often. But when I physically exert myself in heat, like in weather, my body can get racked with pain because of inflammation, right? You get inflammation because of arthritis. So my body gets racked with pain, and it doesn't happen often at all. But last night, I took a shower. We had a great movie. I'm so happy, you guys. I'm happy I got home in time. Blah, 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 blah. I laid in bed, and I swear to God, and this happens for people with arthritis, and I imagine some other chronic diseases. Yes, there you go. That's right, Audrey. We do have the same. Yeah, the heat, everything. So you lay there trying to fall asleep because you're so freaking tired, but your body hurts. Like your feet hurt, your knee, like everything hurts. You're not late, love. Hi, Jane. And it doesn't happen that often, thank God. But man, when it does, you're just like, I just want to go to sleep. But the pain keeps you awake. Yes, even your toes. It's the weirdest thing. And it's only since I've gotten the arthritis, has set on, really, which was 2018 or something like that. So it's the weirdest. I don't know. Anyway, plus I'm old, there's that too. Anyway, I yesterday kicked my ass. I'm not going to lie. After I cut my stream, I really could hardly walk. I was hi, easily distracted. So, I don't know, cuz the problem is, and I know I'm so sorry for all the fucking stupid. It's fine. I'll be fine. I actually feel bad. I mean, feel bad. I feel better this morning. Well, kind of. I'm pretty tired. But anyways, I'm sorry. I don't mean to make you guys feel sorry for me. Please don't feel sorry for me. Everything's fine. I have access to medicines. I can handle it. But I just wanted to say that I'm not as energetic because I'm just like I'm exhausted. I'm just totally fucking exhausted. So that's all. I'm just gonna tell you. I might not be the most energetic this morning because I am really just fucking fried. In a good way. In a good way. Oh, I definitely need. Yeah, I actually do need weed for pain. But in a good way. I'm tired in a good way because it feels good, and I'm really glad I did what I did, and I'm really glad, like. And I have a couple things to play this morning, before we watch a congressional hearing that I want to watch with Scott Bessent. Mrs. Beasley. Mrs. Beasley is here. Stop, Easily. No, you guys are so nice. You guys are too nice to me. You guys are too nice to me. You don't know what it means just to have you here. You're so kind. I think that's really nice of you, Easily. You didn't have to do that. And if you need that money back, you just tell me, girl, give me a cash app and I'll cash app you that money, ho. Paulina, it's so good to see you. Yeah, I did too much. That's what it was. Butterflies, let me tell you, I did too much. I should have known better. I I tried, and I was really mad to not be able to follow on, but I just couldn't. I couldn't keep doing it because the police were really keeping people on the move. Hi, Karen. So I had, and the really thing that pissed me off yesterday is I got downtown about 11:45, and I literally started streaming about noon or something like that. But apparently, I wasn't live, even though it looked like I was live. I wasn't live for about 20 minutes. Bobo called me, said, "You're not live." I went, "Oh shit." So then I kept trying to go through, and all my lives kept dropping. And it was because I was around City Hall. I know it. It's probably just the amount of jammers and shit they have. It's not like they're, oh, let's get Lolo. I know that's not that. But it was really hard to keep a stream going. Uh, but I literally was in the costume a long time. So just so you know, I want you to know I gave it more than it looked like I might have given it. Not that that matters, but it kind of does to me that that I was like doing my thing. Oh my gosh, yeah, I wish you could be here too. Peace love. I can't describe to you. I cannot describe to you what it feels like to be among people that care so much about their community. Yeah, I know. Chicago had a great march. So I mean, obviously all the pain is worth it because it's fun. Like this is fun for me. I really have fun. Obviously, you can see I'm acting like a fool the whole time I'm out there. That's fun. That's part of what I want to do. I'm like a comedian. I want to do that. Oh yeah, New York. I didn't really see much. Hi, good morning, Cat Rex. How are you, darling? Um, but yeah, it was a good day. It was a pretty good day. I was in the wrong place for a minute because they had kettled people like down the street and I didn't realize it, but that's fine. We found the crowd eventually. And they did an amazing job. They were amazing. I'm going to tell you, listen, it's total adrenaline for me. Total adrenaline. And oh my god, the dedication and like yesterday I would say it was predominantly young people when I was marching. It was predominantly young people. And man, I've always said this because I worked with kids. I for those of you who don't know, I ran a high school for a few years in Brooklyn as an executive director. I've worked with kids and youth development for about 20 years before that, before I kind of retired. Um, and I have always said the youth will will lead us. I believe in the future generations. I really do. I believe in the future generations. I think they will figure out all of the intractable problems that we have created, like racism and uh, gender constructs and things of that nature. I really truly believe that. They really are the hero generation. I believe that. And I'm so proud that they are I'm so humbled that they're so kind and helpful and they're like, "Are you okay? Do you need a water? Can I help you?" Like that's the young people I was hanging out with. So yeah, you can say, "Oh, those kids shouldn't write graffiti." Those first of all, it's not the same kids. I'm just going to say it. These things are always it's always just the same old stuff, like there is damage to buildings. There's a little bit of looting, there's a little bit of this. Absolutely, but I'm going to tell you right now, you guys know. That is just so isolated and not the story. It's just not. Even those frickin' Waymos are not the story. All right, that's called opportunity. And the LAPD know exactly what's going to happen. All right. They've been here before. So I'm not even judging them. You know who I'm judging? The administration. I'm judging the administration. I'm judging the DHS police. I understand that the little viral clip of me screaming. I understand the little clip of me screaming is in front of the National Guard. But I want to be real about that. I am not. Yeah, exactly. Fuck Patriot Front. Um, my ire is not with the men and women who are in the National Guard. My ire is not with, you know, those. They've been deployed there. They're following orders. It is not easy to just not follow an order. That's illegal. Um, And so I just want it really clear. I'm not really. It's not. It was much more nuanced than that. And I think what got lost a little bit in that virality was that the DHS police were standing behind the National Guard. Yeah, they were in a tough position. The DHS police, the ones who shot. So there was another thing this morning. I was watching Jennifer Rubin had a live thing with some Steve Vladek and stuff. And one of the guys, I don't know which one it was, said something like, well, the National Guard has been throwing flashbangs and shit like that. And I'm like, that is not my experience. My experience is, yeah, the National Guard has pushed us forward, all that kind of stuff. But it was squarely the DHS police and then ultimately LAPD when they came in for crowd control that shot rubber bullets, shot pepper pellets, all that kind of stuff. Okay, both on Friday when I went there, on Sunday. I didn't really get gassed yesterday. God, it must be such a riot down there. So anyway, the tales of our demise are completely overblown. And I'm fucking sick of it. And maybe that's what makes me a little bit madder. Is that this is civil disobedience. That's what this is. And to discount that is really a foolish thing to do. So anyway, just wanted to let you know that it's there's all kinds of nuance, but there always is, isn't there? Um, they can't be police. I don't even know what they are. I don't know. Nobody seems to know where they come from, where they've been trained. What the hell? Like, forget it. So anyway, um, but I did get. I had a good. I have an interview with the Philippine News, which is good. That I don't know if that was. Oh no, that wasn't on camera. I don't think. Maybe it was. Oh, maybe it was. And then Univision grabbed some quotes, which is good. And who else? Oh, the American Conservative. Oh, that was fun. I hope that came through on tape because that was a good little interview. Did you guys? I don't know if any of you caught that. I'll clip that. I loved the video from Austin's Solidarity Program. LA, we love you. Oh, I didn't see that. I'll have to take a look at that. That's great. I do have some little clips to play before, in about 10-ish minutes, maybe 13, 14, 15. We have Scott Besant. Mrs. Beasley is up today. Let's get Mrs. Beasley out there. Hi, Mrs. Beasley. Yeah, we're ready for you, girl. We're ready for you. So yeah, I wanted to show you. Let's see. Oh man, there was something I was gonna something that news-wise came up, and I was gonna say something about it, and I can't remember exactly what it was. That's fine. Okay. Let me show you a little bit of, let's see, is this one? Yeah. Okay. This is this morning, and I was interested in hearing this, because this is the narrative. Like, the narrative needs to change right now, and I think we're in the midst of it changing. So I want to go. Scott Besant, what cartoon character? Oh gosh, I'd have to think about that. Butterflies. I don't even know. Aw, you are awesome too. Thank you all for the support. Thanks for, and I'm so sorry about the modding situation. Oh yeah, I love that clip. Actually, I want to play that. I'm going to play that because that really sets the tone. Hold on. I was really proud of that. I recorded that when I was totally losing my streams all the time. So I'm like, I'm just going to record something stupid. Yeah, he's like, what's that dog? Oh, is that me? Is that We have Droopy Dog. We have Droopy Dog. Yeah, that Droopy Dog fits many people in this administration. Thank God. Very, very versatile. Very versatile. Very versatile character. All right, here we go. Where the fuck? All right. Where am I? I'm sorry. I'm trying to get through this so that you can see. Let's see. It's a short, right? Yeah, it's a short. Okay. I'm sorry. I thought it was funny. Oh, I'll download the video, Jay, and send it to you. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of this one. I thought this one was pretty funny. I don't know. There's my page. Okay, this is it. I hope it works.
This is Lolo, aka the Democracy Dino, reporting to you live from downtown Los Angeles, where, as you can see, it is complete mayhem. Dogs are fighting with cats, and everything has been burned, but magically rebuilt, oddly. So yeah, we destroyed it, but then we rebuilt it very, very, very fast. And just think, we just brought in these trees, and we had some horticulturalist anarchists coming in and planting trees rather. Of course, you don't build them, do you? That's silly. And so then we have just complete mayhem. As you can see, all the buildings are just in flames. I mean, it doesn't look like it is, but that's AI. Don't worry about it. So yes, yeah, everything is complete destruction, complete mayhem. Everybody's going crazy. You can see them going crazy. Well, maybe you can't see them going crazy, but they're certainly fidgety, aren't they? Things are fidgety. That's the way I describe them down here. That's right. I would describe it as just a downright fidgety environment. If I had to be pressed to do that. So I just want to say this is Lolo, aka Democracy Dino, and I'm reporting from a very, very overrun, riotous, in flames, all the things, Los Angeles downtown. That's right. Okay, sending it back to you in the studio.
Don't go to the next one. Oh, it just does it again. Okay, that's fine. Okay, stop. God, girl, you're too much. Stop doing too much. Good morning, Dean. I meant to say good morning. Anyway, I thought that was really funny, but of course, sometimes I think things are really funny. Is this fidgety? It's just downright fidgety. It was just so funny because I took the bus downtown Because I figured it's just hard to get into downtown anyway, and it's especially hard right now with all the closures and all this shit because of the panic patties closing fucking freeway exits and shit. Uh, so so I took the bus downtown, and I'm like, oh, it's probably gonna be terrible down there. Or I was like, I'm not sure what it's gonna look like. It was like gorgeous. It was gorgeous. Like buses are running like a block away from where all of the nonsense, like they talk about. I walked around downtown. Everything's pretty normal. Yeah, some businesses. Well, first of all, a lot of businesses are closed in downtown on the weekend. Okay. I lived in downtown. That's just the way it is because it's mostly like office workers and shit like that and city workers and shit like that, which is fine. Certainly some businesses have been closed because of potential, dis, uh, disarray. So whatever, that happens. That's normal. And if I was a business owner, I might do that too. I might just like, I'm going to close down for a couple days while shit happens. And wait, buses are running, but they are closing exit ramps. Yeah, make it make sense. Make it make sense. So it was fine. Everything's fine. Yeah, there's some graffiti. They're already cleaning it off. Okay. I didn't see any broken windows. And I walked a lot around that whole like micro area where all this has been happening. I'm sorry. It's not what they're saying. And that's, I think, what makes me the most mad is that none of this is what they're saying. But you know what's real? And I'm not going to show you the video. What's real is that I don't know if it was this weekend or yesterday or when it was, because I only kind of listened to it out of the corner of my ear because I couldn't take it. A man went to a car wash with his family, and ICE was at the car wash checking people and making arrests. And this man who works, and this has all been verified by the news, blah, 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 works 2 jobs. He is not legal in his status. He has a family with a 16-year-old son and a 7-year-old and a wife. And he went to the car wash to wash his car with his family. And the video shows him being arrested, profiled, arrested, and his 7-year-old is inconsolable. And this is like absolutely unnecessary. They're not, he has no criminal history. I mean, I can't express to you, it is actually that bad. It is actually that bad. People being taken from their lives in front of their children for no reason. That man, I heard, is now in the Texas detention center, which means where does he go from there? So I'm going to tell you right now, this is as bad as we think it is. That's why I'm so upset. Because I can't imagine, especially children, being so fearful of having your parent taken from you over nothing, at any point. It is just like Hitler. And I'm going to tell you right now, these DHS police, the ICE or whatever, the CBP, the Border Patrol cops, they are the drama. I mean, LAPD is doing their thing and they're not great. And, we can complain about them all the time. They actually are. And the sheriffs, same thing, CHP. But my issue is with the federal forces. My real issue because this is not right. You know, this is not some number faceless person. This is a man with children. His son is scared. His son, who is a U.S. citizen, 16 years old, says, I'm going to carry multiple forms to prove my citizenship on me at all times. And even then, what is the guarantee that that young man isn't going to be arrested and deported, before they kind of figure everything out? Because apparently this administration can't fucking figure anything out. Oh, well, I think they don't want to. So yeah, I'm going to keep, this is ridiculous. This is not acceptable. This is an invasion and it is unacceptable. You know, whatever you do with the protests, fine, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead. But I'm going to tell you right now, stop taking people from their families. Stop it. That's Hitler's Germany. That's every other authoritarian. I mean, I use Hitler's Germany, but there's a million different examples of when governments perform illegal kidnappings. But I'm going to be honest with you. I did not have this. I did not have them just arresting people indiscriminately and terrorizing our town. I did not have that in my authoritarian, going to happen in 2025. You always think of something like this as a future state, but it's not. Right here. It's right here. I mean, it's just, I don't know how anyone considers that okay. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't, it does not compute. It does not compute. So, I'm going to actually probably play this after because I think, well, let me check on Scott Bessent. Oh, he's not doing shit. All right, let's play this and see how far we get.
On the Los Angeles riots and what took place overnight. Hi, Brooke.
Hey guys, that's right. So some of the 700 Marines in Los Angeles are expected to be deployed today to protect ICE agents, with thousands of National Guard troops waiting in the wings. So the LAPD says dozens of protesters were arrested for refusing to follow the curfew put in place by
the ones that are actually committed
of the law. He again chose as
Los Angeles are expected to be deployed today to protect ICE agents, with thousands of National Guard troops waiting in the wings. So the LAPD says dozens of protesters were arrested for refusing to follow the curfew put in place by Mayor Karen Bass, who says it will likely last for several days. And California Governor Gavin Newsom is now vowing consequences for violent protesters, while still managing to throw digs at President Trump for even sending in the troops.
people will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. He again chose escalation. He chose more force. He chose theatrics over public safety. We honor their service. We honor their bravery. But we do not want our streets militarized by our own armed forces.
Newsom claims President Trump never called him when the protests broke out, but the president is bringing in the receipts, providing a screenshot to Fox News of a 16-minute phone call between him and Newsom on Saturday. And President Trump is not backing down on his efforts to stop these violent riots. He issued a stark message to any protesters who burn an American flag. Listen.
These are animals, but they proudly carry the flags of other countries. But they don't carry the American flag. They only burn it. People that burn the American flag should go to jail for 1 year. That's what they should be doing. 1 year. And we'll see if we can get that done.
Major cities like Seattle and Chicago are also facing similar anti-ICE protests. And in New York City, police arrested more than 80 protesters. And with reports that these protests could continue to spread, Texas Governor Greg Abbott isn't taking any chances. He's deploying the National Guard to San Antonio. guys.
All right, Brooke Singleman live for us in Washington. Brooke, thank you.
Oh my God.
Let's bring in California gubernatorial candidate and Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. Sheriff, good morning to you. As a member of law enforcement and someone who's running for governor, you could talk about this from just about every angle. But first, from the law enforcement perspective, do you think, and do members of law enforcement that are battling these riots on the ground, police officers, the LAPD, do they think that the presence of the National Guard and the Marines is helpful in this situation?
Yeah, it's definitely helpful because what it does is it enables them to protect buildings and property while we can address the issues that are going on with the rioters. When we are splitting our attention to criminals.
Shut up, Chad.
Surrounding this story, I think
Shut up,
it's a
Chad.
pretty simple story. The fact remains that this thing was spiraling into chaos before Trump sent in the National Guard, and now it has stabilized. Is there any other way of viewing this, Sheriff?
Oh,
no,
please.
there isn't. We've been lied to from the very beginning. The politicians, California politicians, the mayor of Los Angeles, our governor.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that was something else. I thought that because there was another sheriff who said, "Oh shit." There was another sheriff who said, we do not agree with what's happening and the fact that the National Guard and Marines. But of course, Chad Bianco is a raging GOP MAGA cuck.
And rose to be a member of the Ways and Means Committee for more than 40 years.
Oh, whoops.
And ultimately,
very low.
He became chairman of this committee, as his portrait sets to my right.
This is Besant.
As a member of this committee, Chairman
Beasley Besant.
He recognized
We're
the United States and
switching
Africa,
gears here. Welcome to Wake and Bake with Lolo. I'm Lolo.
And was a leader in helping create the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA, as so many of us refer to. He wrote that after sustaining wounds during the Korean War, he said he hadn't had a bad day since. It's a pretty powerful statement. There can be no doubt that Charlie Rangel was a joyful warrior in the U.S. House. And our prayers are with his family. And I'd love to turn it over to Ranking Member Nill if he'd like to say a few words as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for this recognition of our departed colleague. Charlie Rangel was one of the finest people that I have met in my long political career. Saw him as a mentor, saw him as a guide, but also saw him as an individual who overcame extraordinary odds in his own life. And he spoke of the anecdotes that should be powerful to all of us as we recall his contributions, including sitting in the chair when the Affordable Care Act was written. And I also think that despite whatever setbacks he had in a nation that was pretty segregated when he was growing up as a young man, he might have been a high school dropout, he might have been an individual who was pushing a cart at the Fulton Street Fish Market, but he also saw opportunity. And he always referred to America as this great country of ours. And I think that in his early days, there might have been reason for him not to think it was quite as great as the nation he came to serve as a war hero at the Yalu River. But it was also part of urban lore. It was part of the story of how we've all arrived here, and Charlie Rangel was a very important part of that mosaic. I will share one very funny story because his sense of humor was gratifying to all of us. He could take the steam out of an argument in 10 seconds after he listened very carefully to what somebody had to say. But I think meeting the Chinese government was one of the funniest moments that I had with him. We met in the Capitol, and at that time, the Chinese government, they had not really made the sort of reforms that many of us have come to see today. They were not dressed in Madison Avenue garb. At that time, they were dressed in military uniforms, men and women. And we were all wondering how Chairman Rangel would greet Madame Wu Yi and probably 25 members of the Chinese cabinet. And Charlie welcomed them by saying, I want to welcome all of you to the Capitol. The last time I was with all of you, you shot me. And recall that he was shot at the Yalu River, but he never forgot, as I said earlier, his reference to this great country of ours. So I appreciate the fact that you've offered us some time. I know that there will be a funeral mass at St. Patrick's Church tomorrow morning for him. He was a man of deep faith and abiding loyalty to this great country of ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranking Member Neal. I want to start off first by thanking you, Secretary Bessent, for coming here straight from London after fighting for America's interest in negotiations with China. I also want to thank you for your close collaboration and ongoing work with Congress to deliver the one big, beautiful bill to President Trump's desk as soon as possible. You have noted how the different parts of President Trump's economic agenda, tax relief, fair trade, and deregulation are working together to ignite a new era of American prosperity. Only 5 months into the Trump administration, Americans are already seeing real results from his agenda. Inflation is coming down. Just look at the price of eggs. They are down 61% since President Trump took office. Wages are increasing faster than prices, helping families recover from Biden's 21% inflation tax. $9 trillion has been pledged by the private sector to be invested in new facilities, in factories, and American workers. In April, we saw the monthly trade deficit cut in half, with both U.S. exports increasing and imports decreasing. More than 70 countries have requested rapid negotiations to improve our trade relationships to be fairer to American workers, manufacturers, businesses, and farmers. And we are creating new jobs in the private sector rather than more federal taxpayer-funded bureaucrats. Democrats have tried to obstruct this success every step of the way. Just last month, they voted for the largest tax hike in American history in order to bring this progress to a screeching halt. Congress must pass the one big, beautiful bill to save American families from a looming $1,700 tax increase and instead give Americans a $1,300 tax cut.
Okay, it's going to be one of those days where we're going to have to do a little bit of fact checking in the moment, so hang in there. But let me show you one of our favorite screens. Come on, whatever. What is it called? Trade. I don't know. We'll see. Let me show you what it's called. I can't even remember. It's because I'm so like, bleh. All right. This is the egg prices. Okay. And this is what website do I have? This is tradingeconomics.com. It basically has all the commodities, and it gives you real-time changes in the prices of those commodities. Okay. So let me just show you eggs. Now, this chart that you're looking at this is a 1-year chart. This is a 1-year chart on the price of eggs. Okay? Are you with me? How does this chart? So this is this is basically, let me just put it to you this way. This is June 18th, 2024, where my cursor is, right over here, June 18th, 2024. Who's president? Biden. Biden's president. Okay. So then, September goes up. We've got all that avian flu stuff, blah, blah, blah. October 7th, they go down. Who knows why? Goes back up. November. Comes down a little tiny bit in December. That's December. And then what happens? Who's president? Oh, yeah, incoming administration. March 2025. March 2025. And you know what happened? Demand fell. But this big drop was because we bought foreign eggs. We bought foreign eggs. Eggs from foreign countries. You can look it up. And then blue, blah, blur, blur, blah, blue. They went up a little bit. But look at, basically, oh my God, Becky. June of 2024, to June of 2025, egg prices are the same. That's right, kids. Egg prices are the same. Sorry. The numbers don't lie, unlike these motherfuckers. All right, so facts first, media literacy. It's almost like media literacy matters, isn't it, Edward? Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's called Google. And there are lots of websites. You know, I check my websites, make sure that, you know, there's about websites that I kind of want and need, you know, like I check sources. But that, my friends, well, let's check inflation. I don't even know if this is the right one. Oh, this is, yeah, this one has it. Inflation rate. Let's see. I don't know. This might be global. What is this? Where are we? This is from May. It's down. Oh, it's down slightly, 0.1% to 2.3. I'm also going to say that I've heard from some people who are in groceries, shall we say, that supply may start to become an issue. You know how we've been talking about with all the different things that are happening, trade, etc., tariffs, shipping, and the people who have basically stockpiled inventory, right, to run through their inventory. We've talked about this on Fucked Financial Fridays and other things. Lee has talked about it, that there is, you know, a number of months of inventory, et cetera, that kind of stave off some of the price increases and the supply issues. Well, we may be entering that zone where the prices and the supply may be different than in previous because of tariff wars that are completely unnecessary, which leads us right on back to Beasley Besant. And you'll see why I have Mrs. Beasley up on the screen there in a moment. But here we go.
77 million Americans voted to make the 2017 Trump tax cuts permanent.
Who?
No tax on tips, no tax on overtime,
Who
tax
voted
relief
for that?
seniors, and no tax on auto loan interest payments. Democrats fought.
Okay, raise your hand if you itemize. I'm sure a lot of you do. I'm not saying people don't. I'm sure a lot of people itemize. But what you're going to be doing with your tips, etc., is you're going to have to itemize them in order to get the deduction, as the way I read it. I could be wrong, and if anyone has a different source, please let me know. But my understanding of the big bullshit bill is that this is not just no tax on tips. There will still be payroll taxes on tips, but then you as the employee will be able to write them off your taxes to a certain amount. Not all of them, I think. Again, it's a little hard to tell because the big bullshit bill isn't really full of big, beautiful details. Anyway, sorry, I keep interrupting. I'm going to stop. But there's a lot of fact checking that needs to happen, and that's why we do this.
Each of these tooth and nail. 40 million families will benefit from the increased child tax credit. Millions of American children born each year will now have savings accounts started in their name. Democrats voted against both of those items. 91% of taxpayers who use the standard deduction will benefit from a
over
double
1,000
deduction that is made permanent and further increased. Democrats voted against that as well. Washington Democrats voted against cutting taxes for blue-collar families. They described these as tax cuts for millionaires. Well, people making over $1 million will pay an even greater share of the tax burden than today, while families making less.
One of the loopholes, too, in this whole big, beautiful bullshit bill is that the millionaires, etc., Wait until you see what's classified as tips. So, and I don't know how that works because I really did think there was a limit on how much you could write off, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Or maybe it is everything. I don't think it is, though.
Than $100,000.
Oh, yeah. He's like the worst Charles Nelson Riley.
Tax cut.
This guy's a fucking...
Nearly 30 million small businesses will
like
benefit
one of those
from
cat
a pass-through
poops.
deduction
You know those really
that is both
tiny, dried-out
expanded
cat poops?
and
That's what he
made
is.
Permanent.
Sorry.
2 million family farms and small businesses will benefit from a death tax exemption that is permanent, larger, and indexed to inflation. Democrats oppose this help for Main Street businesses and family-owned farms.
Of course we don't. That's stupid.
The renewal of pro-growth tax policies will attract more investment, new plants.
We'll have to have a big, beautiful bullshit bill
save
show, huh?
1.1 million manufacturing jobs and help boost America's GDP by over 3.5%. Democrats couldn't fulfill these goals and instead shoveled your tax dollars toward mega
Wouldn't it be nice
China,
if we had a
radical,
hearing that was
environmentalist?
just
We're
facts?
replacing that bad tax
Just facts.
policy with good tax policy that broadly benefits workers, families, farmers, and small businesses. In fact, we are cutting spending by $1.6 trillion, the largest mandatory spending cut in U.S.
I wouldn't be proud of that
history.
bitch.
Democrats brag about cutting spending under President Clinton, but he needed a Republican
We had a
Congress
surplus,
to get it done.
actually.
Illegal immigrants will no longer be eligible for refundable tax credits and other benefits. Democrats voted to allow this practice to continue. Instead, Republicans' One Big Beautiful Bill rewards working families. Take-home pay will rise by as much as $13,300, and 7.4 million new jobs will be
Yes, my
created
love,
or saved,
Pepper. Good morning, my
including
darling.
1 million
On a work
small
meeting, but I'll be back
business
then.
jobs
Okay, bye.
annually. And they
Love you, Lee.
need it after 4 years of Washington Democrats doing the opposite. This bill breaks with Democrats on surrendering American tax revenue to foreign governments. Instead, we put America.
What? Excuse me? Excuse me now? Wait, what did you just say? That Democrats, foreign governments, what now? I can't hear you because there's a big 757 in my ear.
First, we give President Trump the tools needed to stand up to foreign nations that unfairly tax American businesses. We will defend our tax sovereignty. If these countries choose,
I have to smoke some weed.
If these countries choose to withdraw their unfair taxes, this policy will have achieved its goal.
Oh yeah,
I'm
now we're
looking
going to get
forward
into
my
it.
Senate colleagues quickly passing the One Big Beautiful Bill so that we can get it to the president's desk by July 4th. This committee will work closely with the Treasury Department to ensure implementation of this law gives workers, families, farmers, and small businesses the tax relief they are owed and as soon as possible. I also want to acknowledge another component of President Trump's economic agenda that is central to this committee's responsibility: the president's trade and tariff actions. Even the Biden administration acknowledged the success of the first-term Trump tariffs by keeping them in place. Democrats had no issues.
No problem, GP. I understand.
Now that
See you later.
President Trump is back in office and once again aggressively leveraging tariffs to create fair treatment for American manufacturers, farmers, and workers, Democrats dislike tariffs.
Understandably,
I'm encouraged by the progress
especially
we have
people in
made to
places
tear
like
down
Australia
unfair trade
can't even
barriers.
understand
In the
why we do
ongoing
what we do.
Consultation Secretary Besson and others in the administration have had with us to ensure better trade agreements that open market access for American products and services and hold foreign trading partners accountable. Thank you, Secretary, for your hard work in advancing the President's agenda. I look forward to continuing to work with you and appreciate you taking time to answer our questions today. I am pleased to recognize the ranking member, Mr. Neal, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Mr. Secretary. Forgive me if I point out that we've all heard this argument before. Tax cuts and growth. 201, 203, $2.3 trillion of tax cuts. 2017, let's borrow $2.3 trillion in tax cuts as we project economic growth. But somehow tax cuts pay for themselves because that's the theology that became so popular. When there's a Democrat sitting in the White House, it's always about the national debt. When there's a Republican sitting in the White House, it's always about tax cuts. During our conversation that went pretty well, Mr. Secretary, I did remind you that you are a successor to Alexander Hamilton.
Fuck those penguins.
I have known the men and women who have had the title that you have today. It'll be the title at the end of your life you perhaps, other than a family person, will cherish the most. The people that have had this job, they don't fudge the numbers.
What kind of family man he is.
People that have had this job, they don't bend to political considerations. They give advice based upon reality and the success you've had in your career. Since Republicans reclaimed power, they've had a trifecta. What have we seen? It's the constant chaos. Whether it's been the DOGE shadow operating as they rifle through confidential data, the blatant weaponization of the IRS, as they've attempted to change tax collection policy.
Neil, I'm tired of that too.
They have.
We all know that's not true. Okay, Neil, just so you know, we all know that's not true.
And they have bent the levers of power.
So good news is, don't worry.
In the Oval Office. This committee is rubber stamping all of it. That is not our job. The members on this committee know I questioned Democratic presidents when I disagreed with them publicly and stayed with my disagreement if I thought it was based on principle. We see none of that any longer. It's what is stated at the White House that everybody acquiesces to on the Republican side. A blank check for the president. Never mind that we'll let wealthy tax cheats go. Never mind that the theology of tax cuts paying for themselves doesn't stand up. Never mind the pathology that if we only have tax cuts,
but I get it. It's probably frustrating to hear.
Well, they're attempting now to ram through what a very prominent former best friend of the president had to say. He called the tax bill an abomination. The Trump congressional Republicans certainly are about to make history. They're going to be responsible for adding $4 trillion to the national debt and simultaneously cutting health care for 16 million Americans. The changes that have taken place, the chaos of the tariff bill, we don't object to tariffs. When implied and suggested for an outcome, we object to the chaotic nature of how those tariffs are being applied. We've driven away friends across the globe. We've driven away careful allies. I negotiated USMCA. It was done the right way, and the president at the time said it was the best trade bill in the history of the world. Today, it's the worst trade bill in the history of the world. That's what we object to on the Democratic side. You've had a reputation, Mr. Secretary, for sound, fact-based decision-making. I hope it continues to set you apart from other members of the administration. But we shouldn't be attacking the scorekeepers. I have many days when I've disagreed with the Joint Committee on Taxation. I've had many days when I've disagreed with the Congressional Budget Office. I've had many days when I've disagreed with the World Bank. But I don't suggest it's partisan. I don't suggest that they're making up the numbers. I suggest instead it's an honest disagreement. And I don't come back to the argument that they don't know what they're talking about. The math here
Edward
is true.
Is pretty hilarious.
It's projected correctly. $4 trillion at least to the national debt. That takes us from 36 to 40, $41 trillion of debt. When the new administration took office, they said clearly that the reality of their economic policies would be there for all to see. Well, you know what? They were accurate in that statement. The American people are being left behind in a system that is rigged, and I don't use that very often. The rich right now in America do not need a tax cut. Downward pressure on wages created by a lot of different issues should be reasoned and considered here in this committee. We could find an agreement with the Republican Party on an awful lot of things if we left the position clear, as we did in the previous administration, where those under $400,000 would have tax relief, not those over $400,000. Oversight is a sacred obligation of this Congress. Republicans need to, at least from time to time, ask a few real questions of the administration before the white flag of surrender goes up to these arguments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Today's sole witness is United States Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent. The committee has received your written testimony, and it will be made part of the formal hearing record. Secretary Bessent, you have 5 minutes to deliver your remarks, and you may begin when you are ready.
Chairman Smith, Ranking Member Neal, and members of the committee, I'm grateful to join you today. Treasury is committed to working with Congress to improve our nation's finances, create new jobs, and strengthen the economy. We look forward to coordinating with you on the President's budget, his tax priorities in the coming weeks. As part of this effort, I wish to highlight today the Treasury Department's efforts to advance President Trump's economic agenda on tax and trade. First, tax. I'm pleased to report that Treasury has just completed its most successful tax filing season in years, and we did so while improving efficiencies and cutting costs at the IRS. Critics of the President's efforts to modernize the IRS warn that
look at all the paper he has.
In a 10%
you guys see the stack of paper?
Receipts. Instead,
check this
the
out.
opposite happened.
Oops.
April receipts this year were up 9.5%.
You see that stack of paper?
The previous year, and receipts in May were up
14.7%
over
what is
the
he,
previous
Chaucer?
year. Most remarkably, the President was able to achieve these results while reducing $2 billion in waste and planned IT spending at the IRS. This success has taken place against the backdrop of one of the most consequential tax proposals ever to come before Congress, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or as I will call it today,
remember when he was going to do the index card? You know, the index card for taxes?
Tax cuts permanent.
You guys remember that when he was going to have people file their taxes on an index card? Do you remember that? Do you remember that? Oh, lots of monkeys jumping on the bed. Gonna fall down and hit your head.
This will provide individuals and businesses with certainty and build economic momentum. The legislation is squarely aimed at boosting the working and middle class and reinvigorating American manufacturing. According to the Council of Economic Advisors, the One Big Beautiful Bill will raise take-home pay between $7,800 and $13,300 for the average family of four. It will increase wages between $6,100 to $11,600 for the average worker, and it will cement no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and tax cuts for seniors. The One Big Beautiful Bill will...
Well, wait a minute. Sorry. Did I say something about 2.3? I am so wrong on inflation. Can I just quickly? I'm so sorry. We're going to be doing this a little bit, but hold on. Because this is the GDP. This is, sorry, this isn't inflation. This is GDP. Sorry. Okay, I fucked up. Never mind. Continue.
Also incentivize unprecedented
I got my indicators wrong.
In U.S. manufacturing. The legislation will provide 100% expensing for new factories, as well as existing factories that expand operations and support Made in America. It will streamline burdensome permitting processes that often stand in the way of new manufacturing projects. It's time for this country to start building things again, and the OBBB makes this possible. The administration is grateful for the leadership of this committee in shepherding the One Big Beautiful Bill through the House. We are working closely with members of the Senate to get this legislation to the President's desk. Trade is the second topic I wish to highlight. The progress we have made on tax issues over the last 4 months complements the significant progress we have made in rebalancing the global economy. Since I last testified before Congress in May, the President announced a historic U.S.-UK trade deal. This arrangement, which creates a $5 billion export opportunity for American ranchers, farmers, and manufacturers, is a preview of what's to come. Dozens Dozens of countries have engaged the administration thus far with offers to improve their trade relations with the United States. This includes China. I have just returned in the middle of last night from successful negotiations in London with a Chinese delegation that will not only stabilize the economic relationship between our two economies, but make it more balanced. China has a singular opportunity to stabilize its economy by shifting away from excess production towards greater consumption. But the country needs to be a reliable partner in trade negotiations. If China will course correct by upholding its end of the initial trade agreement we outlined in Geneva, and I believe after our talks in London they will, then the rebalancing of the world's two largest economies is possible. By challenging the decades-old
rebalancing
on tax and trade, President Trump is breathing new life into the American economy. More than 500,000 private sector payroll jobs have been added since January. Most importantly, inflation in the U.S. is at its slowest pace since 2021. And the numbers we received today take us back to the slowest pace since 2020. Most importantly, we are decelerating cost increases for shelter, food, and energy. After 4 years of price increases diminishing the U.S. standard of living, inflation is showing substantial improvement due to the administration's policies. Furthermore, the labor market remains strong with low unemployment and plentiful labor demand as job openings remain high. This strength has been exemplified in the recent performance of the stock market and consumer confidence data. The President's bold leadership on these issues has laid the ground for a golden age economy. With your help, we can build on that foundation to create even more prosperity and abundance for the American people. We hope you will join us in this endeavor. Thank you all, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. We'll now proceed to the question and answer session. One of the more absurd attacks we hear from our Democrat colleagues is that the one big, beautiful bill is focused on the wealthy, not the working class. I'm sure the waitress who will keep more of her hard-earned money under the no tax on tips policy, or the lineman burning the midnight oil to restore power and seeing a tax cut under the no tax on overtime policy would be surprised to learn that Democrats consider them wealthy. Secretary Bessent, whether it is those policies or the tax relief in the bill for seniors, the double child tax credit and standard deduction, or the fact that the tax burden on the truly wealthy will actually rise under this bill, how does the one big, beautiful bill deliver primarily for working families?
Thank you for that question, Chairman Smith. As we saw in President Trump's first term, substantial non-inflationary growth was created. Non-inflationary growth. Real wages rose, and working Americans did better. Hourly workers did better than supervisory workers. We believe that this will happen again. As you outlined, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, the tax breaks for seniors on Social Security, and the ability to deduct auto loans on new cars made in America, as was available when I bought my first car in 1978.
I hear it, Max.
All of this will help working Americans overcome this horrendous affordability crisis that this administration inherited.
The Biden administration negotiated a global tax scheme through the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development that would rob American taxpayers of $120 billion and would discriminate against American businesses.
Well, that's what President I just Trump put up on the screen, Karen. I'll link it.
Executive order
There's a lot to that.
Opposing the Biden administration's global tax surrender. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, Congress provides the president, in line with that directive, specific targeted authorities to fight back in the event nations impose a discriminatory tax on American businesses.
Oh, you mean like we did?
Such as a UTPR.
Oh, you mean like we did?
Last week, members of this committee met with an ambassador who was specifically concerned about how this provision would give the U.S. the ability to stand up for American businesses.
This is all bullshit. Okay, just so you know. Welcome to the show, but this is all a bunch of crap.
This country has imposed on American job creators. Secretary Bessent, why is it important for the Treasury Department and the President to have strong protective measures, like the one provided in the One Big Beautiful Bill, to fight against foreign taxes that discriminate against American companies? And how will the administration ensure that the use is targeted and in a manner to protect or replace U.S. tax revenue?
Mr. Chairman, for
Yes,
whatever
Karen, I
reason,
do.
the previous administration chose to outsource American sovereignty on tax matters. and the
Excuse
Trump
me,
administration
Cutter?
believes that is
Excuse me,
unacceptable.
Beasley.
Unacceptable.
Mrs. Beasley.
Many other countries would seek to pull in revenues from U.S. multinational corporations into their treasuries. And rest assured that the provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill to combat this are a staking out of our fiscal sovereignty. The U.S. tax system will stand next to what is called Pillar 2, and other countries are welcome to relinquish their fiscal and tax sovereignty to other nations. The United States will not. So this bill will allow us to prevent our corporate revenues from being drained into foreign treasuries, and that is in the hundreds of billions of dollars.
Thank you, Secretary. President Trump is also
I
using
totally didn't
tariffs to
understand
level
that.
the playing field and demand fair treatment for American workers, farmers, and manufacturers. Secretary,
You just
you are
got
on
rid
the
of
front lines
USAID,
of the
which
president-
basically was a huge part of our American agricultural production, was the aid that we used to give the rest of the world, which we now no longer give. So exactly how is this going to help the American farmers? I missed that part.
economic policy agenda, including through your lead role in trade negotiations to demand fair treatment from China over the last couple days. How do the president's trade policies and tariffs and the total reset of our unfair trade and investment relationship with China that President Trump has led fit into the broader effort to
Neil, I actually
reorient
think that's what I
America's economy
understood.
toward one that serves the working class
I don't know.
instead of just the wealthy elites?
I don't really understand what's happening.
Mr. Chairman, China currently has the most imbalanced economy in the history of the world.
Oh, well,
They now
why is
have
that,
an
Beasley?
approximate 30% share of global manufacturing, and they continually grow their manufacturing base. They are in the midst of a real estate
And we
downturn,
are a service
some may
economy.
call it a crisis, and they are trying to export their way out of it rather than take domestic measures such as increasing consumption, dealing with banking problems, or dealing with the real estate crisis. They cannot be allowed to export their way
They
back to
doublespeak.
prosperity, which would mean substantial decreases in the standards of living, not only for the United States working
Well, strap in,
Americans,
baby.
but for working citizens across the world. Our negotiations with all countries seek to bring fairness. And I will echo President Trump's remarks. There are 18 important trading partners that we are in fulsome negotiations with.
What happened
Many
to
of them
90
are
deals in
coming
90
to
days?
us with unimaginably good trade deals to bring down
Blame it on the
non-tariff
alcohol.
trade
Blame it
barriers,
on the
which the academic research
alcohol.
has shown to can be even more pernicious than the tariffs, currency manipulation.
But I thought
and
Biden
the
wasn't running
subsidy
anything, and
of
then this
labor
and that, and what?
industry. But as these countries come to us, and I look at the list, and I think, how could this have happened? How could this have happened? That the United States willingly became party to such unfair, and unbalanced trade. And as President Trump has said, I don't blame the other countries. If you could get away with it, you should. It was those sitting behind the Resolute desk or those making trade policy who've allowed this to happen over 40 years. And we are determined to rebalance that for the American people.
Thank you, Secretary. I now recognize the ranking member for any questions he might have.
Thank you, Chairman. So maybe we could stick to a couple of facts here, as previously discussed, and that is that if you made $1 million last year, you're going to get about $84,000 in tax relief with this bill.
Beasley gets made fun of.
Under
I'm sorry. That's what we do here.
You are likely
so
to get about $1 a day. The President said that we'd have 90 trade agreements in 90 days. We're 89 short because of the manner in which some of these allies have been offended. We want trade balance for sure, but we also want to make sure that it's done in a manner that will last, not subject to the whims of the administration. I understand, Mr. Secretary, that you don't agree with some of the economic forecasts that have been projected as it relates to the big, beautiful bill. So Penn Wharton says this bill will add trillions of dollars to the national debt. The Yale Budget Lab says this will add trillions of dollars to the national debt. Well, we're 0 for 2. But how about Maya McGinnis? Not exactly known for their socialist leanings. They say this will add trillions of dollars to the national debt. Well, let's go to the Tax Foundation, hardly a left-leaning political organization. They say this will add trillions of dollars to the national debt because the money's going to be borrowed. Here, facts should matter. The advice of experts should matter. We have seen the bond market's reaction to some of these proposals. They're jittery. But you know what? In this committee, we listen. The administration is putting its head in the sand on this debt issue. The facts are going to be hard to escape. So let me turn to the impact of budget reconciliation as it relates to health care. In addition to adding trillions to the U.S. debt, the bill will cause 16 million Americans to lose part or all of their health insurance, according to CBO. We know what the consequence will be of losing health insurance for the American family. More visits to the emergency room, more postponed treatments, more bankruptcies that will come because of it. The problems that people have with health insurance only mean that later on the problems pile up. Bad health, the challenge that is now going to occur for our rural hospitals, surely many of which will be forced to close. Cutting more than $1.5 trillion from Medicaid, Medicare, and the Affordable Care Act certainly will mean job losses. No industry can sustain $1.5 trillion in cuts while we borrow money for a big tax cut that, despite what has been said here today, still favors people overwhelmingly at the top. Let me say, in regard to the testimony, Mr. Secretary, that you've offered, there's another key consideration here. You're suggesting that the improvements at the IRS have all taken place in the last 6 months? It's because of what we did with the Inflation Reduction Act. That's why the improvements have taken place, the technological upgrades that have taken place as well. We have a pretty good understanding of this. We want to use artificial intelligence for better tax collections. But all of this just happened in the last 6 months. That's our understanding based upon the testimony. The Commonwealth Fund, cuts to Medicaid and SNAP are going to lead to the loss of over 1 million jobs. The American Hospital Association estimates that tens of thousands of hospital jobs will be lost as a result of these cuts. Furthermore, a professor at Yale has said that this will conservatively cause tens of thousands of unnecessary deaths. Worse health care, job losses, more borrowed money. The American people deserve considerably better than what we're being told. But let me offer this challenge, Mr. Secretary. We would be prepared on the minority side to work with the administration and direct tax relief back to people under $400,000 of joint income, as opposed to the suggestion that is being offered here today. And if you disagree with the number that I offered about tax relief for somebody who made $1 million last year, let me give you the last 30 seconds to speak to that.
Representative Neal, I have great respect for you. We've had good conversations, but respectfully, if I weigh 1,000 pounds and you weigh 50, and I gain 10 pounds, or I gain 10%, I have gained 100,000. That during President Trump's first tax cuts, the share of taxes paid by the high end of taxpayers, they increased by more than 7%. And I'm sorry, I chuckled when you talked about the IT at the IRS. The program is 35 years behind schedule, 35 years, and is wasting $2 billion a year.
That's why we put the extra money in, Mr.
No. The extra money went in for bodies.
Shut him the fuck
and
down.
Whistleblowers acknowledged that standards were being lowered to bring in new agents.
Oh my God.
The money is not the issue here. It is how the money is spent.
Hey, Teresa.
That's exactly right. We agree on that, how the money is spent. And the last point that I would make...
It has been spent poorly.
Let me make this last point, Mr. Secretary.
Oh, that was a dumb setup, Neil.
The idea that in 2017, that the federal government, emanating from this committee, borrowed $2.3 trillion for that tax cut?
What I believe is that everyone on the Democratic side voted for the biggest blowout for the deficit in history, and that we are suffering from that.
But you mean the ones that Republicans came up with? Wait, what?
6.5 and 6.7% deficit. So I find it very difficult to be lectured to by people who created the largest.
Are you
deficit
fucking kidding me?
When we were not at war.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I negotiated with Secretary Mnuchin the pandemic relief bill. If that's the reference point. That's where overwhelmingly the money went.
Yeah.
That was not a bad infusion of money. It
That
worked.
is not
The Economist
overwhelming.
magazine and the Financial Times said in January the American economy was the envy of the world. I yield back my time, Mr. Chairman.
No, don't let him. No. Shut the fuck.
The envy of the world.
Oh my God.
Pleased to recognize
Fucking
the Vice
hate
Chairman
these
of the committee,
guys.
Mr. Buchanan.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here today. There's no doubt that your knowledge of finance and global markets bring a unique, welcome perspective to the Treasury, and this country is
Pull your fucking microphone,
Coming
Buchanan.
to Congress, I've seen administrations from both parties.
God damn it.
Say that up front in terms of what's happened with the debt deficit. I want to get
Your hair plugs are
The
terrible.
reality is, last 20 years, over $20 trillion in additional debt.
Oh,
I
stop.
remember in the 80s, frankly, where we had the junk bond markets. If I look at all these younger people out here, what we're leaving them is deplorable. And I just want to make sure that
Jesus
we're
Christ,
giving
Grandpa.
as much consideration as we can to that.
Oh my God.
49 out of 50 governors have to balance the budget. It's my biggest issue up here. It's not about one party or the other. It's both parties have done little or nothing in this area, and it needs to get addressed. When you spend last year, you take
He has earplugs.
$7 trillion,
And he colors them because he's about 75,000 years old.
We need to get real about it because again, in the 70s, in the 80s,
Because he thinks
all the
he
junk
wants
bond, I
to
seen
be
what happened with all the
something.
markets and all that. So can you make? I know you touched on it, but could you? And we'll get into the pro-growth thing.
I'm not sure I can watch this whole thing, but I need
Your
to.
thoughts about where we're at, and where we're going as it relates to that. I know we've got people looking at making cuts, but I do want to get your perspective on that.
Congressman, I've enjoyed our conversations in the past. You, as a very successful private businessman, understand the power of this tax bill, especially in the expensing. You and I discussed
Bingo, Neil.
it in great detail. And look, We do not have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. We are right in line with the long-term revenues of approximately 17 to 18% of GDP. What we've seen here is a blowout in the spending. And as I was saying, last fiscal year was something we have never seen before. We have never seen a deficit to GDP this large when we were not at war, or not in a recession, or not in a pandemic.
Yeah,
But
Mr.
we could
Secretary,
call that a war.
we only have 5
And-
minutes. Let me just mention just real quickly. You mentioned, and I just want to get this in, that 100% expensing is like jet fuel. And 199 is huge. These are huge opportunities to make a big difference for small business.
100. No,
But
this
to
isn't
me,
small
they're-
business.
because
No,
I'm
stop
so
it.
passionate about it because
Stop
they're
it,
the
Mr.
job
Buchanan.
creators.
This is not
Can you
about small
comment on that?
business.
Your thoughts in terms of 199?
Oh my God.
100% expensing.
100% expensing is for companies that reshore their businesses here. Let me say that again. 100% expensing, as I understood it, maybe I'm wrong, please, Mrs. Beasley, tell us. But 100% expensing was proposed for businesses reshoring their operations here. That's just a big fucking corporate tax write-off. I'm so happy that the Republicans are tripping over their dicks to give billionaires and corporations more money on the backs of Americans. Because if you don't think that's what's going to happen, then you don't know how to read.
Congressman, I'll very quickly comment on 2 things. It is the 100% expensing that is powerful, and we are adding not only expensing for equipment, as in President Trump's first term, we are adding 100% for factory structures. So if you want to build your factory here in the U.S., we want it to be tax efficient. We want you to have regulatory certainty. We want you to have quick permitting. And that is likely the single most powerful aspect. As the ranking member discussed, on the 400,000 level, that unfortunately is a disaster for small business in the 199. Most small businesses are pass-through entities, and those small businesses are substantially above that 400,000 threshold.
Yeah, let me just add just a closing point. I do want to make on the whole thing of full expensing, it's probably the most powerful tool, whether you're buying or selling.
No, it's not. You think businesses lower their prices because they get to expense all? No, stop it.
I did want to
stop it.
comment the other thing on making, I'd say in
God,
Florida, I was
you know,
chairman of the
Republican
Florida
voters,
Chamber.
you should
One of the
demand
big
better.
issues there is about making the tax, whatever we do on taxes, making it
Than this
permanent.
fucking fossil
So
is
they got
giving
more
you.
certainty, they can do planning and investing in terms of going forward. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, it's on the
Yes, sir.
tips
I
that
was
are
with a
reported
group of
too, by the
business
way,
leaders
Karen.
earlier this week, and they were telling me that they are in fact holding back on CapEx because they
Reported
need
by the
for
employer,
tax
not by
bill
the
to pass
person.
so that
You
they
can't
will
just
have
say, I got this
certainty
many in tips
that
and
the
I'm going to write it off.
100% expensing
No,
will
no.
come back. I think that we will see a sharp upward break in terms of CapEx as soon as we pass the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Thank you, and thanks for your leadership. We're excited you're here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doggett.
Thank you. If beauty is in the eye of the beholder, certainly I can understand, Mr. Secretary, why you and the members of the Trump cabinet are so enthusiastic about this beautiful bill. It gives so much to those at the top, and of course Trump appointees are not just in the top 1%, but the top 1,000th of 1%.
Yeah.
I applaud your personal success, but isn't it true that for you and for a number of cabinet members and other Trump appointees, simply not having your taxes restored to the level that existed when President Bush and President Obama were in office at 39.6% will provide you very substantial personal benefit? Yes or no?
That is not a yes or no question, sir.
All right, if you can't answer.
Oh, no, it is. Lloyd, don't do it. Lloyd, reclaim his time. Don't let him fucking filibuster.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want my time taken. If the witness will not yield.
I would recommend, Mr. Doggett, that if you asked a question, at least allow them to answer.
You can recommend it, but you're taking
Oh
my
my
time,
fucking
for
God.
answering the questions.
So
Continue.
use it.
Let me say, I understand you can't answer that with a yes or no. I'm concerned about the weaponization of the Internal Revenue Tax Code by the President and your role in it. Section 7217 of the Internal Revenue Code makes it unlawful for the President and his partners like you requesting IRS to conduct or terminate an audit or other investigation of a particular taxpayer. Section 6103, as you're familiar, protects taxpayer privacy. Yet in violation of both, the President began threatening
They're as old
Harvard
as I
in
am.
April,
We can be
and
as
on May
we
2nd,
can
he
tell them
declared,
what's what.
We're going to be taking away
I won't want to
Harvard's
be ageist, of
tax-exempt
course,
status.
but
It's what
I can
they
tell him he's a
deserve.
fucking idiot.
And you've been part of the we. When you said on May 23rd that you publicly declared that you were moving forward on this, that there were a substantial number of rules that Harvard may have violated. Can you tell me, yes or no, whether you can pledge to avoid any interference in IRS audits or investigations of particular taxpayers? And if you can't answer that yes or no, just say so, and then I'll move on to the next question.
Sir, that is without question that I will follow the law.
All right, sir. Can you tell us whether, yes or no, you can report back to this committee in 30 days after investigating
Term limits.
to assure us that there have not been any request by the President, any political appointee, or any family member of the President to direct or influence the audit or termination of an audit or investigation of any taxpayer or entity?
That's
Well,
Jason
Congressman, as you said, this
Bourne.
is all
No, Jason,
private
the head of the
matters,
committee.
so
I don't know
it
what his
would
name
be out
is.
of line for me to report back.
Oh, that
on
was the other
all
guy.
aspects,
I'll find
but
out.
I can
can't
assure
remember.
you that I will follow
parboiled
the law
white guy?
and
I
all
don't know.
proper procedures.
Thank you. I'm just asking you whether you can report back in 30 days whether there has been any attempt, I'm not asking for the specifics of who was involved, by the President or any of the other
think
people
you should
I
ask.
mentioned, to influence or direct any audit or investigation of a taxpayer. Can you do that, sir?
Well,
Just answer.
I can report right here. I am not in the habit of repeating private conversations, but the President and I have never had a conversation on Harvard's tax status.
So
I will report that right here. We don't need 30 days.
I'm not asking just about Harvard.
We
If
don't
they
need
can pick
30
on
days.
Harvard, they can pick on anyone, and I'm just asking for a simple report on whether there have been any efforts of that, whether from the President or one of his associates.
Yeah, go back and check,
It
Beasley.
would seem to me that would be easy to do. But let me move also to the question of privacy as it relates to data sharing. Do you agree that there is no authorization for the IRS to share tax
thank
data
you.
broadly
Pepper got
with
it.
DOJ or
Buchanan.
federal agencies for the general purpose of data consolidation?
Section 6103 protects taxpayers'
Precisely.
taxpayers' information. We have followed all proper procedures, and including in terms of
And
the data
Big Balls
sharing
only
with
has half the
Department of
population's
Homeland
tax
Security,
information.
We are allowed to share taxpayers' information for those taxpayers who are believed to be criminals or have committed a crime.
I'm asking you about DOJ and its apparent effort to have an omnibus information sharing agreement with agencies. Do you agree that you cannot share taxpayer data without statutory authorization from this Congress, and you don't have any for that purpose?
We will follow the direction of the regulations and the court, sir.
Are you sharing any taxpayer information?
All right,
with
bye,
DOJ
Pep. See you
for
later.
this
Thanks for
omnibus
coming.
information sharing agreement where they seem to probe into the privacy of every American, consolidating it with Social Security and other private information? Or is there such sharing going on now, sir?
Well, first of all, I would push back on that characterization.
You can do so.
And
I just want to know if you're sharing in the
I will
time that
tell you,
remains.
and there seems to be a misunderstanding among many people on your side of the aisle on what DOJ is. DOJ employees.
I understand you had some misunderstanding about it, and Mr. Musk yourself, but
Oh,
let
darling,
me
there's
ask
no
you again,
mistaking
just
what
simply
we
on the
understand
question
about
I'm
Doge,
asking,
okay?
are
Or
you
doggy,
sharing,
as I like to call them.
any of this data with DOJ without congressional authorization?
As I said, we are following all of the laws.
Thank you. I would appreciate an answer to my question, but I will yield back since my time has expired.
Mr. Smith is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for sharing your time here today. And I've not been around here as long as Mr. Neal has, but I do want to bring in a bit of a historical perspective. that I think is relevant. Looking back,
here we go. We're going to do
we
Democrat
can argue
shit.
about CBO and JCT, and
okay, all right.
It's an imperfect system.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's manifested itself in various hits and misses.
What is this guy? He looks like a fucking cartoon
To the
character.
original parts of the cost of Medicare that was way underestimated, or whether it was the structure of a more market-based approach with Medicare Modernization Act that precedes my time here, but actually cost a lot less than was projected. You go to the receipts, post-2017 tax action, the receipts exceeded what was projected. So we have an imperfect system, but it's what we have. And I think we need to go on that. Now, you take things a step further, and I remember the president's economic advisor, Mr. Hassett, pointing out that with COVID, yes, there was bipartisan action. I'll say that a few of those components still give me heartburn, as much as an emergency that we found ourselves in. But when, at the beginning of COVID, when unemployment spiked and the GDP dipped, Congress acted. By the end of 2020, GDP was back to about even. New President Biden was advised not to spend what he insisted on spending. I would suggest they're probably grappling with going back to the Obama stimulus, and they think that the only mistake of the Obama stimulus, so-called, was it didn't spend enough money, rather than address the bureaucratic approach that, like the joke was shovel-ready, maybe wasn't what it was described to be. But we have these imperfect projection systems, and yet we've got the reality of experience. And I think this is important to note, and especially on the IRS structure and the desire to spend money on more people at the IRS, because that could generate more audits and that would generate more revenue, and then we can spend that revenue that, good grief, still wasn't enough to cover what the actual IRA costs came in and came to be. So we have to deal with these realities, and it's because they're imperfect systems that we just have to acknowledge. And that's why, Mr. Secretary, I had not heard the numbers on the IRS, and especially in these efforts most recently, that we were told that if we pushed back on the number of new IRS agents and auditors, we were going to undermine the revenues, and yet a different approach that focused more on technology, because there was a willingness to focus more on technology here on this side of the dais than there was with just hiring more people that actually, even in the best of scenarios, did not come.
That wasn't the point, and they need people. God damn, fuck you.
We are in a
fuck
situation
you,
now
sir.
where
you don't fucking know. You're not being genuine at all, motherfucker.
To extend a lot of what we did in 2017 that did not have bipartisan support then. Now, that didn't pass the Senate. We are where we are, and now heading into a situation where what we have at hand with this reconciliation bill is good for workers.
It is not.
It's good for
You're
workers.
lying.
It's good for economic expansion.
This is just a fucking lie.
Encouraging investment and increasing
I don't even get
productivity so that we can grow the economy without triggering inflation.
Here's this guy right here.
President Biden was warned not to
That's
push
who
more spending.
he's giving me this
by Democrats,
energy
I
right
might
now.
add. I think of Mr. Summers, primarily, advising
Larry
against
Summers.
that. Did it anyway. We are still paying the price. We're trying to dig out from a lot of that, and that's why we're doing the bill that we are.
Wait, what happened?
I have other things that I'd love to ask questions on.
What I missed?
But I
the military
think it's important
arrived.
to realize.
Yeah, they weren't there
we need to
yesterday.
deal
There were
with
no
reality here.
Marines.
That's what we are doing. And Mr. Secretary, thank you. I look forward to further conversations, whether it's trade, whether it's IRS, whether it's various things that we need to do to get our country to a better place.
Yeah.
Realizing that the solutions are really in the private sector.
No, they're not. No, they're actually not.
On our side, too.
No, they're actually not. No, it's Mr. Peabody and Poindexter.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here.
You know, the economic
Let
outlook
me see
of
if
the
I can
United
find
States
some.
has soured a bit since President Trump
Although he
assumed
does look like
office.
Dilbert.
We've
Actually,
gone
that's a
from
better
record
one.
lows in unemployment, historic growth, and lowering inflation to unprecedented trade wars, volatile markets, and low consumer sentiment. And for the record, Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter surveys from consumers from the University of Michigan, a trade war impacting the shipping economy, and the OECD article on the downward turn in economic turn in the U.S.
Without objection.
Thank you. This is only made worse by the Republicans' big, ugly bill and the administration's proposed budget. I have a few items I want to raise with you, Mr. Secretary, but given our limited time, I want to focus on the projected impact of the reconciliation legislation. Economists from the CBO, the JCT, the University of Pennsylvania, Yale University, the Committee for Responsible Budget, and the Bipartisan Policy Center have all projected that this legislation will add trillions of dollars to our national debt. Experts have also projected that close to 16 million Americans will lose access to their health care, and 11 million Americans will lose access to nutrition benefits. These figures aren't coming from Democratic talking points. They're coming from economic experts with years of expertise. Yet, Mr. Secretary, you have time and again gone public and said that you dispute these claims. I believe you're a very intelligent and very competent individual. You're a Yale graduate, an adjunct professor, served as the managing partner of the George Soros Fund Management office in London, and led Key Square Capital Management, a global hedge fund, and you're a billionaire. So the question I have is, why is it that you seem intent on disavowing any and all expert opinions that are inconvenient to your political agenda? Unfortunately, it strikes me that you are hell-bent on ignoring the warnings of any independent expert whose opinions may not serve your goals. When you worked in finance and your analyst told you that a proposal was a bad idea, I suspect that you listened to your analysis and didn't just accept the deal because the person proposing it said they were wrong and that their deal was a good deal. That would be wrong, it would be irresponsible, and it would be dangerous. I would submit that in the position that you have now, it is even worse. It's more wrong, it's more irresponsible, and it's more dangerous. Mr. Secretary, can you point to one independent study, one study performed by an expert PhD economist who is not on the payroll of this administration, that says that this legislation will not add to our national debt?
Well, Congressman, if...
Yes or no? Can you point to one?
If we want to look at the CBO, which...
No, I'm not
That's not his
asking
question.
That's
not the question.
An independent expert that you can point to that says that this bill will not add to our national debt? Yes or no?
Yes.
There is?
Who?
What are they?
Art Laffer.
Pardon me?
Who?
Art Laffer.
Art Laffer? Great. That, I don't think that one counts. Mr. Secretary, did the 2001 Bush tax cuts add to our debt?
Sorry?
Did the 2001 Bush tax cuts add to our debt? Yes or no?
Again, Congressman,
yes or no?
I think it's important to look at framing here.
Okay, I'm reclaiming my time. It's
He
clear that
is
you're
the
not going to
supply
answer the
side
questions that are asked.
economist.
And let me make
Yes.
it real simple for you.
Yes.
The Bush tax cuts added to the debt. The second round of Bush tax cuts added to our national
embarrassing.
debt. The last Trump tax cuts added to our national debt. And every expert will tell you that the proposed Trump tax cuts will also add to our national debt. That is the honest answer, and I would have expected you could have just given us a yes or no on whether or not these preposterous tax cuts that will benefit clearly the most wealthy people, the people who don't need a tax cut in this environment, will add to our national debt. This is bad public policy. It's bad for the American taxpayers. It's bad for our economy, and it's atrocious for our future in regard to the national debt. And I yield back.
Next, we have the chairman of our tax committee, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding the meeting. Mr. Secretary, thanks for being here today. We get into these back and forth, and it comes down to who struck John. I think both sides of the aisle can talk about things and policies in the past that caused wherever we are today to be wherever we are today. The question isn't about the history of how we got here. The question is, how do we remedy it? How do we fix it going forward? I'm from the private sector.
Well, how about this clown?
And
how
I
about
really do
Jamie
believe before
Dimon?
anybody-
I'm going to stop him for a minute. How about this clown, Jamie Dimon, the darling of Wall Street, the king of Wall Street, if you will, actually. Because let me tell you, Jamie Dimon, when he speaks, the world listens. All right? When he speaks, the world listens, whether or not we like it, because frankly, he's a motherfucker. He's a fucking capitalist pig motherfucker. But even Jamie Dimon can't sugarcoat this. And while this might not be, this particular story is about the trade policies that this Mrs. Beasley that you're witnessing in front of you is trying to push, this fucking hopium kind of bullshit, trickle down bullshit that has never worked, will never work, has been proven it wouldn't work. And yet, the Republicans still manage to sell it to their dumb shit voters. Because apparently Republican voters are gagging to give millionaires and billionaires much more of their take-home pay. Okay? So let's call a thing a thing. If you've watched my show, you know that we do cover the economics of this administration in addition to the human rights abuses, because it's all a fucking dumpster fire. And the problem is that the death knell that is about to come for the U.S. economy. No, I didn't. I'm so sorry. The death knell that's about to hit the U.S. economy right now is completely man-made. And Mrs. Beasley is very much a part of the problem. So, as urgent as human rights issues are, and they know that, which is why they put people's lives in danger from this administration, so that we will have to address that, while they make sure that they cement enrichment for themselves and their friends. Because part of the big, beautiful bill, if you haven't read it, I've read some of it, I haven't been able to get through all of it, is codifying, and that's something that I've been complaining about for these many months, is that they're chipping away at environmental protections, regulations, other things. It's all being slowly codified through the Congress into law. This is a very dangerous time for this country. I don't know how many of you lived through economic downturn of 2008, whatever prior. It's going to be bad. Because while right now we're kind of holding steady, there's too much uncertainty around tariffs and trade and what that's going to do to cash flow for companies, whether they be small or large. Okay? They're making a bet that they can push these things through so that they are enriched, and that the burden for the revenue in this country comes from you and me, because we consume, use, it'll be a use tax through the tariffs, through increased prices. And you can look at the data on tariffs. Even industries that are not tariffed, or companies that don't experience them, will raise their prices in the setting that prices go up, because certain companies do pass those tariffs right along to us. I don't think people understand how much this is a man-made disaster about to happen, that didn't need to happen because there's no reason for it to happen. So unfortunately, the dumpster fires with this administration are many, and it demands attention, unfortunately, to all of them. My God, this is really, I mean, I'm breaking glass right and left. This is just too much. Sorry. Here we go.
Anybody should ever serve in public office, they should have been in the private sector and worked where they got paid on commission only and had lost their job at least once and had faced an unbelievable task of trying to keep your business open when there was no revenue coming in. So I don't want to grill you on all these things of asking you a question and not allowing you to answer it.
Isn't this part of why they're not turning in budget details? Exactly.
I'd rather go back to consistency and certainty.
Oh, it's so
the hardest
fucking
thing for anybody in the private sector is trying to figure out what the next administration is going to do.
It's devious.
Or what's going to happen at midterms and whether I'm going to make an investment or not going to make an investment, because that can change overnight. I get that.
Are you kidding me,
I get
Max?
that, and I'm sitting here now and I'm trying to figure out. No wonder hardworking American taxpayers have lost faith in the way
I'm going to be in the dino suit this Saturday.
I just want to ask you this because I think it's really critical. So,
shut up, Kelly. I'm going to be in the dino suit this Saturday in Beverly Hills at the No Kings rally there, because I'm imagining there's going to be some 805 patriots who are the maggots that are very evil. Oh my God, the maggots in Beverly Hills who come to Beverly Hills, they don't live there. The maggots from that come to the Beverly Hills things are fucking evil. Fucking evil. I mean, beyond evil. They tried to run down my daughter. We have it on film. My daughter filmed it when we were standing with the LGBTQ community in WeHo in West Hollywood, when Matt Gaetz and whatever his name is, Walk Away, Brandon Straka, waltz through town. I just watched some of the video back of that because my daughter filmed that when I was in the dinosaur suit. So we got separated for a bit. But I just watched the video of my daughter navigating through that crowd. They were pushing her and shoving her and yelling at her. And it just made me so fucking angry. So let me tell you, I'm going to Beverly Hills this weekend in my fucking dinosaur suit. And I hope to God the 805 Patriots do show up, because I'm going to make them look like fucking idiots. Good morning, gal. How are you? Let's see. What's this? All right. I'm sorry. I'll keep going with this nonsense.
So I have kind of a little bit of a football background. I look at this. We're in the fourth quarter now. It's a 2-minute warning and no timeouts left. I want you to share with us what could happen, and forget the Potomac amnesia about who's responsible for it. Let's go to what actually is going to happen if this bill doesn't get passed. How is it going to affect hardworking American taxpayers?
Congressman, good to see you.
Do tell.
It is what we call in economics a sudden stop.
Oh, please.
It would be cataclysmic. It would be the largest tax hike in history. It would be a disaster for businesses, for working Americans, and for our status in the world. That to have this happen, we would see increases in taxes on thousands of dollars of working Americans. We would see business contract, and we would see a substantial increase in the unemployment rate.
That's my opinion!
So as you look at what's taking place right now, and I think there's always the back and forth about do these tariffs work, do they not work? Just from a standpoint, your background is incredible for you to be in this position today.
Oh my God. Why don't you go just suck his dick? Kelly, step off the dice, walk down there.
People weren't firing questions at you and not allowing you to answer them. Just going forward.
There's no Marines on the streets. Thank you, gal.
What's going to happen if we don't get this passed? So what is it that, in addition to what we could do, that we're not already doing?
Congressman, it is certainty and permanence. As we have seen, the corporate tax rate is permanent. That is, we are not arguing on that here. Businesses have great certainty. Households do not.
What?
Small businesses do not.
What?
And this administration, myself especially, given my small town roots,
oh, fuck you,
are laser focused that Main Street
you pay to get your toes licked. Come on
Main
now.
Street is a series of small business owners who work every week to make payroll. On average,
Please
9
do, Paul. I
employees,
need you.
family owned, and this would be cataclysmic for them. On the other side, having permanence, being able to invest.
Oh, you mean like knowing permanently what your tariffs for the next 6 months are going to be? Like that?
Will lead a Main Street resurgence. We will also see a manufacturing resurgence. Approximately
Will lead a Main Street resurgence. That's not true.
9% of Americans are now engaged in the manufacturing sector. History has shown us that wage growth occurs more readily in the manufacturing sector.
Where is that?
For working class Americans than in the service sector. So
Okay, what?
combination
Where's that
of
data?
Small business and manufacturing, along with
Oh, is that because of
President's
unions?
tax agenda for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, a tax cut for seniors, and the ability to buy a new American-made car and deduct
Except
the
for the
interest,
fact that you lose all your Obamacare.
horrendous
Because your
affordability
premiums are going to go through the
way to
roof,
think about it,
motherfucker.
we are dealing with two
Because another thing they're thinking they're cutting as part of this big bullshit bill is the premium assistance as part of Obamacare. You know, the reason you don't pay high premiums as an individual is because they do marketplace and they have like groups and shit like that, right? People are going to lose their health care. That's real.
things here. We are dealing with affordability and we are dealing with inflation. Affordability is the stock of inflation, and we are working to pull that down. That can be pulled down two ways, through price levels or increase real wages. I think we can do both, but the real fill-up here would be increase real wages for working Americans.
Oh, yeah, okay.
On the other side, we just saw the yet another fantastic inflation number, much of that due to decrease in
It's kind of holding steady because it doesn't know what's going to happen.
For you to step out of your private life was very comfortable. To step into this arena, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank
Fuck
you so
you,
much
Kelly.
for being
Go suck
with
a
us today,
dick.
and that
Fuck
Don't
him.
add to the national. Very.
Sorry.
But you can see the frustration on this side. I appreciate your loyalty to the president and understanding your responsibility, but it seems pretty clear that in the time that we're given to ask a question,
yeah,
et cetera,
Paul.
the reason that people are seeking yes and no answers is because of the time that's allotted. There's nothing.
Mike Kelly should suck a tailpipe
Personally
then.
or whatever, you're obviously very bright and intelligent. So, Mr. Secretary,
Stop it, Larson.
would you agree that I give great credit to Representative Massey, who stood on the floor and addressed the Congress during the debate on this bill, and he never criticized the president. He never criticized a fellow Republican. What he did was address the facts, and he laid them out very clearly. Let me quote what he had to say here. This bill is a debt bomb ticking. Congress can do funny math, fantasy math if it wants, but bond investors don't. This week, they sent us a message. Moody's downgraded our credit rating, and the bond investors who buy and finance our debt demanded higher interest rates on a 10-year note, 20-year note, and 30-year note. What does this mean? Very soon, the government will be paying $16,000 in interest for paying $16,000 of interest alone per U.S. family. What are we telling them instead of taking care of that problem? We are going to give them a tax break. The frustration you hear up here, of course, is that there's denial that tax breaks don't add to the national debt. Was Moody's wrong? Was Representative Massey's assessment wrong?
What do you think he's going to say?
I can tell you that clearly Representative Massey doesn't understand the bond market, and that any 24-hour window, as he's just said, is incorrect.
Ooh, the leopards aren't going to eat my face.
I will point out that the U.S. 10-year,
Exactly, Jim.
which I repeatedly
Exactly.
reference, is the only major 10-year bond that has a lower yield this year.
So
has a lower yield today than it did on January 1st or January 20th. German yields are higher. Japanese yields are substantially higher, but U.S. 10-year yields are lower. So I'm not sure what's on Representative Massey's mind.
So Massey is wrong. And Moody's was wrong too?
Moody's, even the Democrats say that.
What do you mean, even the Democrats?
The last time that the U.S.
I don't know. What do you have to do with Moody's? You know,
in 2011, when the U.S. was downgraded, Larry Summers, then
Oh, my
NBC,
God.
had called Moody's a lagging
So,
indicator.
is Moody's wrong or right? Yes or no?
That's the question.
Moody's is a lagging indicator,
Okay,
and
so
anyone who
you can
invested
understand the frustration, and I appreciate your
A lagging indicator, doesn't that mean that it's eventually going to catch up to you?
American people, and we're in a hearing like this. Someone as bright and as capable as you are.
Elon was not
could
wrong, I guess, about
explain
that. I
to
guess
the
even
American
a broken
people
clock is right
and
2
still
times a day.
Remain loyal to the president, loyal
Because
to
China
our
and
colleagues
Japan
on this
cashed in
dais
bonds
who
due to tariffs,
supported
didn't
the
they?
bill.
Yes, Lee.
There is a
Thank you.
strong difference of opinion. And that's what is being expressed here, opinion.
That's my opinion!
There's no focus or dedication on the actual facts. We'll find that out, and people on this aisle are saying, well, don't worry, there's going to be no impact on kids not getting food, 16 million people being kicked off of their health insurance. That's some mirage. That's some fictitious
We're going to watch that
notion
tomorrow,
that
Gal.
Democrats have made up. And this national debt stuff.
Tune in tomorrow
well,
because we're going to
whether
watch
it's
this.
Moody's, whoever it is who has come out, whether it's the Wharton School, they're all wrong or misguided or uninformed, as Secretary Massey was. I yield back.
Mr. Schweikert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, how's the jet lag?
Been better.
Yeah, it's
been better.
Look, it's impressive.
Who the fuck
but
cares?
I don't know if you get frequent flyer miles.
I can't. I'm not listening to bullshit,
Trillions
suck my
in
dick
tax
time.
And not
Here we go.
hurt
Sorry, Mr. Davis, I'm coming back to you.
That we will never allow to happen.
Mr. Secretary, absolutely agree. Visibility, capacity is important. But even your own numbers, in 9 years, we borrow about $100,000 a second, almost solely driven by demographics, health care.
The leopards are
Medicare
eating their
and
faces. Oopsie.
I beg of you, it's hard to do in front of these microphones because it's uncomfortable to talk about, but it's math, and it's the reality of what we are as people. We need to work together to provide visibility to these debt markets. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you. I now recognize Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary. Today, Secretary Benson
Oh, that's nice.
appears here to praise the Republican One Big Beautiful Bill. That is the most cruel, draconian, inhumane legislation that I've voted on since I've been here. Government, I seriously believe, should help people and not hurt them. I reject this bill that makes poor people poorer, sick people sicker, and hungry people hungrier. I reject this bill that rips health care from 16 million Americans, with over 498,000 Illinoisans expected to lose their health insurance including 102,000 children and 27,000 seniors in my district alone. I reject this bill that threatens my constituent Deborah and her 2 children, whom she adopted from foster care. The picture behind me shows Deborah's children, who are medically fragile and rely solely on Medicaid for their health care. I reject this bill that will close hospitals in my district and kick people out of their nursing homes, not only in my district, but across the country, especially in urban inner city communities and rural communities for sure. I reject this bill that explodes poverty and suffering while giving wealthy trillions in tax cuts. And I reject this bill's irresponsible explosion of the deficit that triggers statutory cuts to critical programs supporting children and families. These pay-go reductions would eliminate funding for the maternal, infant, and early childhood home visiting program, known as MACV, that have proven to improve mother and child health, family safety, and child development. It would eliminate the guaranteed funding for the Mary Lee Allen Promoting Safe and Stable Families program that we know helps prevent child maltreatment and strengthen families. It would eradicate the social services block grant that provides substantial investment in child care, child welfare, and adult protective services. These egregious cuts alone will cost Illinoisans over $72 million and hurt Illinois children, seniors, and families. I reject this bill that gives tax cuts to the wealthy.
Hi, Carla.
Paid for by denying and depriving low-income, poor people, senior citizens, sick people, unhealthy people, the health care, food assistance, housing assistance, and economic development opportunities that they need. This bill reminds me that there is something rotten in Denmark. There is something wrong with the thinking that puts such a bill in front of us. This bill is actually what we call the Robin Hood in reverse. Take from the poor, take from the disabled, take from the sick, take from the hungry, and give to the wealthy.
Maybe they should smile more.
Good. It is immoral. I reject it, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Certified badass.
Mr. LaHood is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here. Thanks for your service to our country. I would argue, Mr. Secretary, that President Trump got elected last November. What this bill will do to the economy
in America, we want.
This is all rhetoric, so I don't listen to their bullshit rhetoric that much.
Thank you,
I mean,
Mr.
sometimes
Chairman.
I do.
Welcome, Mr. Secretary. There was no tax bill passed during the Biden administration, and I know that because I served on this committee during that administration. So I just wanted to clarify that. And in the interest of time, because our time here is limited, I'm going to ask you to please limit your answers to yes or no questions, and I'm going to jump straight into those questions. Mr. Secretary, do you still believe that the president's tariffs are going to be a one-time price adjustment for American families?
If prices go up, they will be one time.
Okay, well, unfortunately, you appear to be talking out of both sides of your mouth because you yourself have admitted after conversations with Walmart that some tariff costs are going to get passed on to consumers. And in fact, we've already seen that prices are rising on many everyday goods.
No,
And
Congresswoman,
please
today,
don't interrupt
we
me.
had
The time is mine. The time is mine. Please don't interrupt me. I will ask you questions and I will grant you an opportunity to answer them, but please don't interrupt me during my time.
With pleasure.
Okay, I know I'm a woman, but please try to limit yourself to answering my questions. No, I'm sorry.
You don't
want
to be called out on it?
And I don't want that to happen at this hearing.
Are you weak, little
Remind members,
boys?
the gentlelady is recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you. The time is mine. Clothing is going up 20%. Shoe prices and canned goods like chicken noodle soup and canned fruit and microwave meals have gone up 15%. Toys are getting more expensive. Walmart just raised the prices of dinosaur action figures by 38% and baby-born dolls by 43%. Household goods like drills, toolkits, vacuums have also gone up. Stanley Black & Decker recently announced higher prices for all of their products, and these are just some of the products that are affected. On average, Trump's tariffs are estimated to cost households $3,000 more for the same goods than they would have last year. And that's money that could be going to...
That's incorrect, and
That is
I'm
not
not sure
incorrect.
who's estimating.
The best estimates are that
estimate
consumers will pay $3,000 more for the same goods
And that estimate is from
that
whom?
they did last year.
That estimate's from whom,
I will get
Congresswoman?
you the estimates.
Right, because
But
the
that's
C-
money
the
that
C- the-
but
the
that's money that
CBO
could be going
estimates
to
a
paying
0.4%
goods
increase.
or paying rent and groceries. And it's clear that Trump's trade wars are hurting American families. Yet all we have to show for the economic pain are news reports of these flimsy trade deals. And I understand, Mr. Secretary, that you are co-leading the China trade negotiations. Do you think that China is a reliable trading partner?
I think we will see.
Well, pardon me for being skeptical of this administration's ability to get anything meaningful out of trade negotiations with China, because this administration is too swamped with trying to negotiate with 90 countries around the world. And to me, a poorly negotiated trade deal with China is probably not worth the paper that it's written on, because this is China's China's track record. These are facts. In the Trump administration's Phase 1 trade deal, China promised to increase purchases of U.S. goods and services by $200 billion over 2 years. Countless reports, and you yourself, have noted that China has failed to meet these purchase commitments. Those were purchase commitments that were negotiated by Trump in his first administration.
They met their agreements under President Trump in 2020, and President Biden did not enforce them, and the Chinese delegation told me that they did not believe they needed to adhere to them.
I'm reclaiming my time. That's incorrect. China has also not
Prove
made the
it,
structural
bitch.
reforms that they promised Trump that they would.
Prove
Many
it.
U.S. companies still reported widespread intellectual property theft and counterfeiting. So excuse me if the last attempt by the Trump administration to secure meaningful change from China doesn't exactly inspire any confidence in the current negotiations. And, you know, quite frankly, negotiating trade agreements with China requires more time and effort than this administration has given so far. And that's why I was alarmed to hear this morning that Trump said that the U.S.-China deal was done after just 2 days of talks in London. Mr. Secretary, the press release on this so-called deal looks more like a framework. Congress, who has the constitutional authority over trade, needs the details of this supposed deal. So I'm asking if you will provide this committee with the actual details of this deal, because
Ooh,
there
I
has
did not
been,
know that, Tom. I'll have to
unlike
look
what was
into
said
that.
earlier, there has been no consultation with our side of the aisle, at least, on the China negotiation. Will you commit to giving us the specifics of that deal, the details?
Congresswoman, I flew back at 4 a.m. this morning to be here this morning, and we are...
It's a simple yes or no question.
No, it is not a simple yes or no question. We are in the midst of constructing it, and back to your question, China has proven an unreliable partner in strategic...
Will you commit to consulting with us on trade deal with China?
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
I would ask that the witness be allowed to answer that last
Gentlewoman's
question.
time has expired. I
It's
now
a yes or no
recognize-
question. It's very simple.
Representative, I raised many of your concerns to the Chinese delegation, and it will be a longer process. The trade deal today, or last night, was for a specific goal, and it will be a much longer process. And I will note that the previous administration did nothing.
But excuse me, the
Mr.
question
Arrington
was
is
whether
now
or not you
recognized.
would
The
consult
gentleman's
with
time has
members of
expired.
Congress.
Mr. Arrington's time.
It's my time
is
now.
now Mr. Arrington's time, 5 minutes.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for your service. Increase in the cost of essential goods and services.
Fuck you, Jody Arrington.
If you take CBO's
Fuck you,
static
Jody
scores,
Arrington.
the cost of the bill is about
Fuck you, Jody.
$4.16 trillion.
Will increase the
There we
deficit
go.
by
Now we've got some.
Sorry?
What did you say? I'm
intelligence.
sorry.
In savings, President Trump, God
President
bless
Trump.
America and go West.
Big, beautiful bill. Add
In some.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Mr.
you being here.
Secretary.
God bless
Yield
America
back.
and go West Texas.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Go fuck
I now
yourself, Jody
recognize Ms.
Arrington.
Sewell for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Mr. Treasurer, Secretary of the Treasury. I actually, with all due respect, only get 5 minutes, so I'm going to ask, my constituents have sent me a list of questions that they just want yes or no answers to, and out of respect for the time and the fact that they want some clarity, I hope that you'll just say yes or no. The first question is, will the big, beautiful bill add to the national debt? Yes or no? Is that a yes or a no? That's a no? Yes?
Sorry?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
It remains to be seen.
Well, I mean, look, the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office official score of this bill says that it increases the
I've
federal,
got something,
deficit
Carrie and
by
Tom. I've got an
$2.4
article on that. I'll
trillion.
post it in the chat.
Sorry to interrupt, Congresswoman, but the CBO also said that tariff income over the 10-year window would be $2.8 trillion.
You know,
so that
No,
would be
no.
dynamic scoring and all that
There's
stuff.
nothing
And my-
dynamic about that. You're quoting the
my-
CBO, I'm quoting the CBO, so let's level
Listen,
set.
we can level set, but the reality is that I have constituents back home who are really scared. They're scared that prices have gone up. This administration has promised that prices will go down. That's absolutely has not occurred for them. And every time they hear the word tariff, they think of the fact that it's another tax on them that will be passed on to them for goods and services. At any rate,
That's
not
an
only do the
archive of a
CBOs,
Bloomberg
say
article
that
on Besant
that
and
this
game
bill will
theory.
increase the deficit by $2.4 trillion. The Committee for Responsible Federal Budget.
Yeah,
said
exactly, Karen. It's fucking
$2.5 trillion.
offensive, isn't it?
The Yale Budget Lab, $2.4 trillion. The point I'm trying to make is that you will add to the national debt over the span of this time. The second question that they wanted me to ask is, will all Americans have a net benefit from this beautiful big bill?
It is it's difficult to.
Yes or no?
Again, it's impossible to say all Americans. It is ridiculous for me to give an answer for 337 million.
Well, I can
people.
tell you what a lot of
I can say the balance of probability is that Americans will get a substantial increase, especially if you're referring to working people in your district.
Wow.
They should do.
Wow, you
very
can't
well,
even be
as they
specific
did
about
in
that,
2018 and
bitch. You can't even be specific about that, bitch.
You know, the distribution to help, the numbers don't lie. The average tax cut in 2027
strategic
for
uncertainty,
people in
right,
this bill
Carrie? I found
making
that too. I'm
$1
like, oh
million
my God.
is about $81,500. So someone who makes $1 million,
No, I didn't
and
see
no
that,
one
Carla.
in my district makes $1 million, to my knowledge, will get a tax increase, will get a tax benefit of $81,000. That's $223 a day. Now, the average tax rate in 2027 for people making under $50,000, which in my district is about 63% of the people that I represent, they will only get a tax break or tax increase of $265, which is 73 cents per day. That's pittance. When you think about the fact that the IRS, which you have been, this administration has decimated, closing field offices everywhere, laying off or taking or dismissing thousands of workers from the IRS. The folks in my district often get, bombarded with inquiries about their earned income tax credits, and billionaires that are going to get $81,500 more don't. So, I mean, the point that I'm trying to make is that not all Americans will benefit the same. We know that, because people make different things. But the fact of the matter is, if you're only saving me $268 and you're taking away my health care, you're taking away my health, which 16 million Americans will have no health care, will lose their health care, and they have to lose their health care in order for you guys to actually pay for your bill. I mean, to pay for your bill by kicking people off health insurance and giving them no health care, to me, is immoral and not fair. The last question that I was asked to ask you was, when will we hit the debt ceiling? I know that this big, beautiful bill also means a debt increase in the debt ceiling, and frankly, I heard you say that that is something that's an imperative. I would agree with that. When do we foresee us hitting the debt ceiling?
Congresswoman, I want to congratulate you. You have a very sophisticated constituency to ask questions like this.
What the fuck?
The so-called X date is a...
What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? Fuck this fucking racist motherfucking pig bigot.
With all due respect, just because you're poor doesn't mean you're ignorant.
Yeah.
As I said, very sophisticated.
Yeah.
It was
so just can you answer the
Oh
question?
my
I mean,
fucking
want to
God,
know. I'd like to know
I'm
whether
in
or
the
not
habit of
it's gonna
saying
be-
thank you to compliments. That
What?
The so-called X date.
Somebody
is a
kick
moving
him.
target.
Somebody fucking
So when do
throat
you
punch
for-
this
I mean,
bitch.
You're the Secretary of Treasury. So tell me, when do you predict, given where we are right
will
now,
be
will we hit the ceiling?
Some point in the middle to late summer.
Is that August, July?
Oh.
Again, it is imprecise.
Oh.
Well, sir, I just think that it is an abomination that
Yeah.
we are actually giving bigger tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans who don't need a tax cut.
gentlewoman's time has
Meanwhile, we're
expired.
taking away food assistance and health care from
Yes,
people
I
who
will.
desperately need it.
Gentlewoman's time
Thank you,
has
and I yield. You're ignorant. Earned income tax credits and billionaires that are going to get $81,500 more don't. So, I mean, the point that I'm trying to make is that not all Americans will benefit the same. We know that because people make different things. But the fact of the matter is, if you're only saving me $268 and you're taking away my health care, you're taking away my health, which 16 million Americans will have no health care, will lose their health care, and they have to lose their health care in order for you guys to actually pay for your bill. I mean, to pay for your bill by kicking people off health insurance and giving them no health care, to me, is immoral and not fair. The last question that I was asked to ask you was, when will we hit the debt ceiling? I know that this big, beautiful bill also means a debt increase in the debt ceiling, and frankly, I heard you say that that is something that's an imperative. I would agree with that. When do we foresee us hitting the debt ceiling?
Congresswoman, I want to congratulate you. You have a very sophisticated constituency to ask questions like this. That the so-called X date is a...
With all due respect, just because you're poor doesn't mean you're ignorant.
As I said, very sophisticated.
Yeah.
It was
so just can you answer the question?
I'm in the,
'Cause, I mean,
I'm
we
in
want
the
to know.
habit of
I'd
saying,
like to know
I'm
whether
in
or
the
not
habit of
it's gonna
saying
be-
thank you to compliments. That the
Well,
the
yes,
so-called
sir.
X date
Yes, sir,
is
we
a
will.
moving
Oh,
target.
thank you for schooling
When do you
her.
I mean, you're the Secretary of Treasury. So tell me, when do you predict, given where we are?
It takes longer than 4 years to actually develop more new.
Okay.
new-
I just can't listen to Republicans talk about this because what they're doing is stroking Trump's little mushroom through Scott Bessent, through Mrs. Beasley. And it's just totally fucking ridiculous. It's totally fucking ridiculous. The current continuing resolution extends funding. Well, except for the fact, Max, I would like to understand what the impact of the of the illegal impoundments are, though, right? Like there's been illegal impoundments of allocated or approved funding from fiscal year 2025, which ends on September 30th, right? We have an October 1 to September 30th fiscal year in this country. So the new budget starts in October. But they have already taken money and probably rerouted it to DHS and the DOD for costume changes. Oh, sorry.
Consolidated database containing
So I kind of wonder
sensitive financial, health, and personal information.
what that's going to do.
I support protecting Americans.
Do you support the consolidated database?
I support protecting Americans' personal
So
information based on current law.
I think it's very concerning that you're not able to say no. This is not a partisan question. In fact, just last week, Republican Representative Warren Davidson responded to reports that DOJ is merging huge sets of data from across federal agencies into a centralized repository. He said it's dangerous when you start combining all those data points on an individual into one database. It's a power that history says will eventually be abused, end quote. Well, I could not agree more, and would also add that this kind of database would be a goldmine for malicious actors who are eager to exploit American sensitive data.
The bill is urgent so that corporations can somehow recoup or at least put up with the tariff wars. That's why they need the fucking bill to pass soon, because then corporations won't balk at the fact that tariff uncertainty has completely fucked them over and created a crisis. This tariff conversations have created a global crisis. I don't think people understand that. There is massive uncertainty about how businesses plan for what their expenditures are going to be. This is the most ham-handed bullshit handling of trade relations, I think, in any century. I don't know, Lee could probably comment on that, but yeah.
And Mr. Secretary, Section 6103 sets forth the confidentiality and disclosure rules for tax returns and tax information. Just because DOJ wants to compile people's sensitive information into one place doesn't mean the confidentiality rules go away. Is that correct?
The reason everything is calmish right now or whatever, or people aren't noticing as much, is because everybody's clenching their butt cheeks trying to hold steady. That's the only reason anything seems relatively calm right now, is that they're hustling behind the scenes to account for the uncertainty as much they can. But that means you're not doing any future planning in any real sense of the word. You're just trying to plug the holes in the dike in the moment. This is completely antithetical to manufacturing growth, investment in businesses and things like that. This is a completely ham-fucking-handed. And if you watch me at all, you'll know that I talk about the Mar-a-Lago Accord and the global restructuring of trade that Stephen Moran wants to do. And who is Stephen Moran? Well, he's not just some fucking dickwad. He's the head dickwad of the Council of Economic Advisors to the president. So if you look at what Stephen Moran has wrote about global trade, this was his idea, was to, number one, generate revenue versus income tax or corporate tax, generate revenue off of tariffs. And who pays tariffs? Say it with me, we do. Okay, it doesn't matter how you want to sugarcoat that. Those result in higher prices. Okay? He is testifying. We're going to go to that, but let me get this thought out. I have that actually keyed up on the thing. So, yeah, the companies are also trying to avoid the wrath of the White House, right? So the price increases will creep up versus larger just jumps in prices. So I think this is this is so wrong. And it is designed to shift, it was designed to shift the power dynamic in the world, because another part of that is to go ahead. No, totally. No. Absolutely. Yeah, I know. I want to go to it, actually. I do have it teed up. And we could probably end this because, frankly, what are we going to learn from this? Nothing. Nothing more than we already have. Oh, Scott Besson is still an idiot. Oh, it's Wednesday. So I'll go to that. I will definitely go to that. They want to renegotiate the foreign debt. You know how they were just talking about treasury bonds? Well, that's the way our debt is serviced, is through these treasury bonds, right? That's how we raise money for the government. And a lot of foreign nations buy it, China among them. We want to renegotiate those bonds that they hold. So let's say they hold a bond, and it yields, which means we have to pay what we service on our debt. Is we have to pay them like a dividend or whatever you want to call it, bond interest. There you go. We make an interest payment to them, and that's our national debt. That's why the national debt's such a big deal. So they want to renegotiate those bonds to zero coupon 100-year bonds, which means you give us the money and then you'll get back your money in 100 years. It doesn't mean you don't get money back for lending us that money, basically. You don't get any interest payments on that ever, number one. Number two, you have to hold those bonds for 100 years, and then you get your money back at the end of the bond. What country is going to take that deal? I'm sorry. Is that dumb? That seems real dumb to me. All right. So let me go ahead and go. I think it's a good idea to jump to Hegseth. So thank you, Gal, because I know he was going to talk about that, and I really wanted to hear it. Let me see where I put him. Where did I put you? I put you right here, didn't I? Oh, there's your dumb fucking face. Here's my dumb fucking face. Here's my dumb fucking face. Why is that live? I wanted that not. Okay.
As an invasion under the previous administration. I would.
Are you prepared to authorize DHS to use drones and also to authorize military forces to detain or arrest American citizens?
Wait, let's go back a little bit. Oh no, I'm not listening to you.
Leadership of Washington, which is home to many across our country.
Okay, I want to get right into the questioning.
Yes, okay, all right. More people are joining the military now than any time in recent memory, right?
Yes.
This is.
Mr. Secretary, you have already ordered 4,000 National Guardsmen into Los Angeles, plus 700 active duty Marines.
I went back a bit.
That's against the advice and opposition of the governor, the mayor, and the chief of police of Los Angeles. And these forces are in addition to 11,000 military personnel, active duty and National Guard, that have been deployed to the southern border in support of Customs and Border Protection. Separately, the Department of Homeland Security has requested more than 20,000 National Guard troops to assist in, I quote, interior immigration efforts. And I understand you've approved an additional phase of 700 service members for this mission, with additional associated command and control from Texas, Florida, and Louisiana. This week, the Department of Homeland Security sent another request for DoD support to transport ammunition, quote, to authorize military forces to detain or arrest American citizens, to provide DHS with military drone surveillance support, and to have the Marine Corps advise DHS on running joint operations. Is it your intent to improve these requests, all of them?
Well, Senator,
I've asked my lawyer.
We very much support President Trump's focus on defending the homeland on our southern border, as well as supporting law enforcement officials doing their job in ICE in Los Angeles who deserve not to be assaulted, accosted, and rioted while rounding up one of the 21 million illegals allowed in as an invasion under the previous administration.
Are you prepared to authorize DHS to use drones and also to authorize military forces to detain or arrest American citizens?
Senator, every authorization we've provided the National Guard and the Marines in Los Angeles is under the authority of the President of the United States, is lawful and constitutional. They are assisting in defending
So the answer
law
is yes.
enforcement officers
So the
and law
answer is
enforcement
yes.
facilities.
No, they're not.
So the answer
No,
is
they're
in
yes.
not.
execution of their job
No, they're
The
not.
answer is yes.
in the city of Los Angeles.
No, they're not.
How are you paying for this? Is this done on a reimbursable basis by the Department of Homeland Security? Or is the Department of Defense paying for this?
As we mentioned yesterday, a lot of this we are paying for, and some will collaborate with DHS on.
And how is that done, given a CR which restricts your spending dramatically? What are you taking from? Readiness?
Well,
Yep.
as we acknowledged, and I can
Yep.
pass to my colleague,
question.
Bryn, who knows the details on this, but in 2025, where we took from, we have
doesn't
completely
know
refunded
shit.
and then some in the FY26 budget.
How many White
Your
Claws did you
whole
have last night,
ethic
Senator?
seems to be
No.
revolving on the lethality of the military force.
Secretary, I mean.
How is this operation with Marines and National Guardsmen improving their lethality?
Senator, you mentioned the 11,000 at the border. It's actually 13,000. And I've been down there to speak
Well,
with
that's
them multiple
embarrassing.
times. And people will say that mobilization hurts readiness. When you talk to them, it actually improves their readiness.
I'm talking about lethality. That's what you talk about all the time.
Readiness and training and
training,
accountability is all part of lethality.
No, that's right.
Training.
The more ready you are, the more capable you are, the more accountable you are, the higher your standards
How
are.
much-
It all makes you more lethal.
So you're,
And the mission in Los Angeles, as you know well, sir, is not about lethality. It's about maintaining law and order on behalf of law enforcement agents who deserve to do their job
Excuse me.
without being attacked by mobs of people.
Law-
I'm proud that
What?
the National
And
Guard
dinosaurs.
and the Marines are on the streets defending.
They're not on the streets.
ICE agents, and they will continue
Law
to do that.
and
They're doing a
order
great
Okay, they're not on the streets. Let's get that real clear. The National Guard are protecting buildings. Let me say that again. The National Guard are protecting buildings. That's all they're protecting.
is a
job.
civil function under the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah.
Civil enforcement, law enforcement authorities, not the U.S. military. And
There's
they're-
plenty of precedent for the U.S. military supporting law
And
enforcement officers.
what your military is doing right now is laying concertina wire, guarding buildings, maintaining vehicles for other services. This is not only, I think, illegal, but also a diminution of the readiness and the focus of the military. But let me change course a bit. There's a general understanding that you have taken possession of this Qatari
I know,
aircraft, the
Paulina,
747. But there are public reports that the Qataris have not yet signed a memorandum of understanding, which would specify that the agreement was initiated by the Trump administration, and Qatar is not responsible for any future transfers of the plane's ownership. Are you in possession of the Qatari airplane now?
Any specifics about future
Oh,
aircraft
really?
that could be Air Force
Oh,
One can't
really?
be discussed
Okay,
here. But
Sure,
okay.
the
Oh,
conversation
okay.
about a memorandum of understanding.
Okay,
The memorandum
Petey.
of understanding
Okay.
remains to be signed, Senator.
You have signed a contract with a company to reconfigure the aircraft. What is the price of that contract?
That cannot be revealed in this setting, sir.
Why can't it be?
why
revealed?
not?
Well, this is the appropriation
Why
committee
not?
of the United States Senate. We appropriate the money that you will spend after it's authorized by my committee. And you cannot tell us how much the contract is for?
You will have that number, Senator. It just
No,
can't be talked
we want
about
it
in
now.
a
Oh,
public
really?
It's been
Why?
signed. The contract is
Why? What do
signed,
I
correct?
care? What
The
do I
contract
care?
has been
Why is
signed.
it such a
The
spicy
memorandum of
number?
understanding is not
No,
complete, and
I'm
therefore
talking about
it's
the
not complete.
contract with the American contractor. Has it been signed?
Yeah.
It's nothing on that front that I'm aware of is being executed.
Oh.
Well,
Wait, what?
that's contrary
Wait, you just
to
said
what,
you couldn't say
we've
what it
all heard.
was, how much it
Second
was.
thing, what's
What?
the delivery time in the contract?
Again, the delivery time of anything of that sensitive nature is not for public consumption.
Really? We're just
Can you
going to
tell
see
me
it
the
on
delivery
TV?
time
What
for
am I
the
going to
Boeing
do?
aircraft that were being prepared for Air Force
What do I
One?
care?
Was that in the contract?
One of the problems is
He's
that
such a
the way
stupid fuck.
we actually procure aircraft in this country takes so long
Oh,
that
yeah.
when it's ordered, it's
Oh, okay,
7,
so
8,
now-
9, 10 years late.
And so then what?
Requiring the necessity for a stopgap alternative.
So now what?
no.
Oh, really?
What you
But you
just
still have
said
to
is that
outfit
the
that one.
Boeing
Wait a minute.
information was public
I'm very
knowledge.
confused.
The delivery date, the cost overruns, but this is not. Because this is not only a bad deal for the American public, it is just it's gratifying the president's ego. That's all it is. Thank you.
That's exactly what it's doing. Thank you, Reed.
Senator Moran.
Somebody smack
and
that
then Senator
fucking
Durbin and Senator
whatever.
Chairman McConnell, thank you.
Just put it in the signal
Secretary,
chat.
An issue for me as a Kansan, but an issue for folks who fly out of Ronald Reagan National Airport. January 29th, Army Black Hawk helicopter.
Yeah, where is
commercial
Sean
airliner
Duffy? Why does he
arriving
keep crashing
DCA
planes?
From Wichita collided midair. I know you're aware of it. You were involved in responding on the night of the accident, January the 29th. It killed 67
Where? From his
individuals,
bar stool?
many of them Kansans. I want to hear a confirmation from you. Since that flight, I ask, as did the Department of Transportation, the FAA, that the helicopter flights emanating from the Pentagon be put on pause. It's my understanding from information from the Army is that since January 29th, 7 flights have taken off and landed at the Pentagon. 6 of those flights occurred during periods of high volume at DCA. One of those aircraft caused 2 different commercial flights to abort landing on May the 1st. And since this latest incident, I understand that all flights have been halted. My question is, will you commit to maintaining that restriction on all
Those are my 3
non-essential
worst
rotary
words.
flights,
Will you
including
commit?
VIP transport from the Pentagon until the Department of Transportation, the
Yeah,
FAA,
at
determines
least it's all
the safe way
theoretical.
in which that can be done, if there is a safe way?
Senator, that was a very tragic incident, which can never happen again. We initiated
But
an
it almost did
investigation
6
immediately,
times.
worked directly with the Department of Transportation immediately. They've taken the lead on it. In real time at that moment, we even stood over maps and looked at routes to make sure we were ensuring that routes of Blackhawks were away from the flight path so that it didn't happen again.
But I guess it did happen
There are essential
again.
reasons why you may
But I
need
guess
to
it did
move
happen
along
again.
a corridor similar
6
to that.
times.
But there is no
What?
authorization for VIP or convenience flights along that route. That is not the case and will not remain the case.
Oh,
You have our
well, then
assurance
what
that
were
I'm
those
working
other
with Secretary
flights?
Duffy very closely to make sure that the only
We just had
flights
a bunch
that
of
would
White
be
Claws
even
last
in a
night.
modified path would be those that
We
are
got in our
necessary.
underwear and we recreated the Tom
ban,
Cruise
except for,
famous scene from Risky
non-
Business.
That ban on
We took turns.
non-essential flights, including VIP transportation, remains in effect until Secretary Duffy reaches a conclusion if it's possible to fly safely.
Yeah, okay.
We are
Well,
in
let's.
direct coordination with Secretary Duffy, and we take his recommendations very seriously.
Where's Duffy?
And work together, and only where there's a dynamic and ongoing need for the Defense Department would we push back and try to figure out a middle ground.
Thank you, and I compliment you on your response and engagement on January the 29th. I appreciate that very much, including the conversation you and I had that evening. There's so many national and international issues I want to talk to you about, but I also want to make certain that some things that no other member of this committee would ask about a circumstance that I've encountered in Kansas, and we've sought the Department of Defense's help, and we're fighting, in my view, we're fighting the bureaucracy. We have a Army Corps of Engineers lake in Kansas. It's next to a city, a community called Council Grove. It's a county seat town of several thousand people. Their community.
Yeah, let's talk about Sean Duffy. Hold on. Yeah, I know. We keep interrupting everything. Well, get over it. If you wanted breaking news, you have to go somewhere else. But more importantly, you should know who Sean Duffy really is. Let's take a look. Oops, can't use my fingers anymore. Okay. Here we go. This is Sean Duffy. Here's a TikTok, a real good TikTok of him. Here we go. I hope you can see that. I think it's a little hard to see, but hold on. Do this. Okay, there we go. Reality TV past of Trump's cabinet pick resurfaced. This was from way back when he was like nominated. But anyway, here you go. Here's the guy who's in charge of crashing planes. I mean, keeping planes in the air.
As we're sitting on the boat, I break out my video camera and I'm filming everybody in our group and hanging out. And all of a sudden I see Montana like looking at me like she's gonna unzip her vest and show me her boobies.
Breakfast in bed.
Good for young Elker. But I want to get the good sexual stuff. What's going on? I had half a little glass of beer and a little wine.
Did you at any time over the course of the weekend, while in the presence or caring for children, drink alcohol?
Yeah.
Whether taste one, you drank in front of the...
So, oh God, I hate TikTok for this reason. Okay. Yeah, so that's Sean Duffy. Oh, hi, Sam. Oh, hi, Sam. How are you, Sammy Sam? You okay?
Depends upon the tourist traffic and usage of that lake. They had a manager, a ranger at that lake. The Corps did. Hiring that ranger shifted to another lake. The hiring freeze prevented somebody from being hired to replace that person. The Secretary of the Army, I appreciate his cooperation, signed a waiver to allow
I
the
wonder
hiring,
about that, Jim. Both those
but
things.
now have been told weeks to months for the Army Corps of Engineers to go through the hiring process to replace the person. And if I could get your attention or your staff's attention to see if there is not a faster way. This community says that the people who come to stay and visit the lake, so at the moment the marina is threatened to be closed, there's no one to clean the latrines, no one can check the permits, so it is unusable. And summer is the season in which this community thrives based upon visitors to the lake. And I was told,
what the fuck are
by
we
the Army
talking
Corps of
about?
Engineers, they had the person they wanted to hire.
Oh
That
my
person had
God. You know
applied, but
what?
the
I
hiring
don't
freeze
even give a
prohibited
shit.
him from being hired. And they have people in mind to be the seasonal employees.
That led to the taking of their own
I
life.
can't. Whatever.
This is a deadly serious issue. We are committed to getting to the bottom of who it affects and why, and making sure we do right by it.
So let me tell you what I've done about it.
Oh,
As
whoops.
chairman
Oh,
of this
damn it.
subcommittee at one point in time.
Sorry, I missed the
We
beginning
have
of his.
dramatically increased the medical research to protect the men and women in uniform. As we learn these things, we want to get to the bottom of it as quickly as possible. It is enough for me that they risk their lives for our country. We shouldn't make it a more dangerous situation, and we ought to understand what's going on in their minds and their bodies when they serve. And as a result of that, we have dramatically increased defense medical research. I think we owe it to the men
Yeah,
and
ask him
women
about the
in
F-35.
Your
I don't
budget
either,
cuts
but Lee says we should, so let's do it.
two-thirds of that amount for defense health research. How can that be consistent with our mutual goal of making
Cut 2/3
the
of medical
military
research
life
for
a
military
safer life for our
personnel?
men and women in
What?
uniform?
Well, Senator, I would take issue with your characterization that all 2/3 of that, whatever was reduced, is focused on the issues that you just spoke about, because those are issues that,
What
as a
is it,
secretary
then?
who's very close to these issues and knows people close to these issues, my team knows that's exactly the type of research that we would fund. But we did find lots of other research inside the Defense
What?
Department to the tens and millions, and in some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars that was a boondoggle for the American people.
Really?
Why?
Oh, what's
Why do
the
you
what's
say
the
that?
definition
Give
of a
me an example
boondoggle?
Boondoggle in medical research and
There are
defense health.
I mean, we're talking about some stuff I shouldn't say in public. Marbles in the rear ends of cats, tens of millions of dollars, things that don't
Is this
have
like the
a
300
connection.
Gus, don't listen to him. Gus, don't listen. He's not going to put marbles in your butt. Don't worry. Oh, now my cats are afraid they're going to put marbles in their butts. This is unbelievable. This is totally unbelievable. I can't. I just can't. I can't. I can't. I'm losing my mind.
300, is this
what
is
you're
like-
talking about.
Is
So
this
I
like the
respect
350-year-old Social Security check that the president told us
Senator, I
about?
respect completely the issue that you're speaking with, and this department couldn't be more sympathetic to that and
Well,
ensure that it's funded. But the Defense Department has been a place where
Then I would want a list of
organizations, entities, and
then this committee or whatever committee should do it should demand a list of programs that were cut. Give us a list of all of the research programs that were cut. In fact, I'm going to go online and see if I can find it. I don't know. Cat butt marbles. I don't even know what's happening right now. I don't even know what's happening. Where here we go. What's happening? What's happening? This is like the end of Poltergeist. Okay, sorry. All right, here we go. Oh, whoops, I thought I hit you. Sorry.
companies know they can get money almost unchecked to
That's
whether or
not
not it actually applies to things that happen on the battlefield.
That's just
That's
not
Well,
what we worked
have you
very
seen
hard to
the
find in
cat
ways that other
butts with
secretaries
Mar-
have not.
Let me tell you,
This committee and others talk about waste, fraud, and abuse all the time. We have actually gone after waste, fraud, and abuse because every dollar
just
that's
tell you,
okay.
spent is a
eliminating-
dollar we
I don't
can
think
pour
you
into the
have,
eliminating
actually.
2/3 of the money for defense health research. Put that next to the decision to cut NIH
Cat butt
medical
marbles.
research by 40%. Does that make America great again for these military families? I don't think
He
so.
thinks it does.
$45 million for a parade,
I'm sorry,
for God's
you missed
sake.
that?
Money should be put in defense medical research.
He thinks it's just
Instead
perfect.
of wasted on some pomp and circumstance for the president. This is not
I'm
consistent
so
with what the men and women in
flippin'.
uniform deserve.
I don't even know.
Senator
problem,
Hovind,
Lee.
Then Senator Schatz, Senator Bozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for your service as well, Mr. Secretary General. Appreciate it. I want to talk about our strategic defense, and in two aspects. One's our nuclear forces, and then the Golden Dome
no
concept.
shame, King. No
and if you
kink
think
shame.
about it,
Absolutely
you know,
none.
they really
Very sex
go
positive
together.
over
In
here at
other
the
words,
Lolo's
our
Lounge.
nuclear forces, the nuclear triad
But
is what
don't
has
be putting things
kept
up your
any
cat's
country
butts, okay?
from ever challenging
Please.
us with any kind of nuclear weapon, right? And it's done that since World War II. So it's vitally important that we maintain the strongest nuclear arsenal in the world. Would you agree with that, Mr. Secretary, and also General?
Senator, no doubt, our nuclear triad is the silent foundation of our deterrent effect. And that's why this budget fully funds all three legs of the triad and makes sure we're leaning forward and ensuring we have the most capable nuclear deterrent possible.
General?
Yeah, what level of clearance do you need for cat butt marbles,
It is
Jim,
the
these
bedrock
days?
on which all our conventional forces reside. So we've got to update our nuclear forces to make sure that they're
Ooh, I'm
always
gonna find
superior
that,
to
Tom.
any near-peer adversary. That's the Sentinel program. Now, in 2025, 1.7 billion was taken out, which we are putting back in through reconciliation. And there's 4.1 in 26 versus the 5 that was originally asked for by Air Force. But that's an overlap in terms of it's actually only 2.6 because that 1.5 is being brought back in. I want to know, and I want assurances, I'd like assurances from both of you that
if he
effort with
really
Sentinel will
loves
be
me.
funded so that we stay on schedule with that vital upgrade. Secretary?
If you want, we could have Bryn speak specifically to that. Can you, that we are funding it fully?
Yeah, the key question here is a commitment to keep that on schedule.
Yes, sir. The Sentinel is fully funded. The only reductions in 26 were a reflection of the Nunn-McCurdy breach that the Sentinel program experienced. But since then, there's been a restructuring, which the Secretary can speak to.
And Secretary and General, y'all are committed to keeping that on schedule and providing the funding to do it?
The challenge with that program has been how it was administered from the beginning, which everyone in this committee is aware of, leading to the Nunn-McCurdy breach, leading to an understanding of how we do it properly. We are putting our best people with a daily focus on this program to get it back on track because that's how important it is.
So you are committed to keeping it on schedule. And on Nunn-McCurdy, generally Air Force, I want to commend. They've done some good work and we've worked closely with them, but we need a commitment to keep the funding going to keep them on schedule as well with the revisions based on Nunn-McCurdy.
The funding is there, Senator. It will be incumbent on the service and others to keep that on track. But it has not, thus far, been a program that's done that.
Right. But I'm not criticizing you. I'm trying to make sure you're committed to keeping that funding in place to do it.
Okay, well, if wishes
that
were
the
harsh,
case?
says
The funding is
Bakers
in the
would
budget for
ride.
FY26
Yeah, at least
completely.
it's not a pearl necklace.
General?
Leave our
Sir,
cats alone.
I'm
That's my
guessing,
new sign.
You know that in my job, I don't actually fund
Keep
anything.
your
I
marbles
just
to your
recommend
in your
and
own
advocate
butt.
for, so I'm going to defer to my bosses to the left on the.
I understand, but there's a difference between what you all in the Air Force have asked for and what's in the budget.
Yes,
I
sir.
understand the Nunn-McCurdy adjustments. I just want to make, and we're working closely with Air Force, and we'll continue to. I just want to make sure the commitment's there.
Sir, you've got my support to continue to advocate for the program through the Air Force and through the chief and the secretary.
That's going to be so nice,
Thank you,
Lee.
sir.
I'm so excited
And
for you.
Then I want to flip to the other side
really
of the
happy
coin,
for
which
you.
now is Golden Dome. I mean, we've got the nuclear forces, so nobody ever tries to fire a missile at us, right? And then with the Golden Dome, it's, well, I guess if they do, we're going to take it out. Now,
Ooh,
in
this is
that regard,
Republican
you've got a number
people.
of programs that are critically important to our capabilities to make sure that we have better technology for our forces than our near peer. So for example, TRMC, Test Resource Management Center at Air Force, we're now developing the Sky Range program at the Grand Forks Air Force Base, which enables us to test hypersonic missiles. I wonder, George Rumford leads that program. I wonder, understand your commitment to that program, to drone, counter drone, which we're seeing is so important. And again, we've got both a test site as well as Grand Sky Technology Park on the Grand Forks Air Force Base. Your commitment to upgrading ISR, not just trying to do everything from satellites. So think next gen ISR, taking beyond Global Hawk, right? Which you need in places like, whether it's supporting Ukraine or certainly in the Middle East, and like the very good work you did taking out the Houthis and putting a stop to that nonsense, okay? And then also SDA.
The Houthis. Yeah, let's talk about the Houthis and the signal chats and the war plans and the shit. Come on, let's do it. You opened that door. We didn't.
And the low Earth orbit satellites. Starting with you, Secretary, talk about your commitment to those programs. And if you agree, they're vitally important, both in terms of achieving Golden Dome, but in terms of our near peer challenges, in terms of maintaining our capabilities, our superiority. And same thing, General, I would put the same question to you as well.
Well, Senator, I certainly agree about your lens. Your lens is near peer adversaries, capabilities to threats, and defending the homeland. Things like hypersonics, like UAS, counter-UAS, ISR, critical to that. That's why there's robust increases in those budgets in all of those places, both for how they might be applied in the Indo-Pacific or elsewhere, but also integrated into the Golden Dome.
Thank you.
Senator Schatz, and then
Could the general
I just think of golden showers when he says it. I'm sorry.
I'd echo
An
the
article
Secretary's
on new
response.
fighter
The
jets
effects
that
are
fly
the key,
ties back to the discussion last
and
Friday.
we'll stay close
Ooh.
on the effects that you're trying to achieve, and I
I'm going to link the
appreciate your
Discord
advocacy for
here in
those
the chat.
effects.
Yeah, I'm going to continue to work very hard to make sure that we have resources going into those programs, because that's where, as they say in hockey, that's where the puck's going.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We'll take all resources at all times, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Well, that's a dumb fucking question or answer.
Secretary, thank you
Kane.
for being here. Good to meet you. General, thank you. Ms. McDonald. I'll start with General Kane. Is the United States being invaded by a foreign nation?
Sir, thanks for your question. I think at this point in time, I don't see any foreign state-sponsored folks invading, but I'll, be mindful of the fact that there has been some border issues throughout time and defer to DHS, who handles the border along the nation's contiguous outline.
Is there a rebellion somewhere in the United States?
Sir, I
don't think I did.
I think there's definitely some frustrated folks out there.
I mean, if frustrated folks were a rebellion, and I guess that goes to my question for the Secretary.
Yes.
Two things. There should be some sort of paper flow that the committee, the Congress, the public can look at in invoking Title 10, Section 12 406. So can you give us some clarification on whether
This should
the
be the link
orders that were issued
on
apply to
that Lee's talking
specifically
about.
Los Angeles, to California generally, or is this a
Man, it's too
nationwide
long.
order?
God damn it.
The orders that have been issued, which are publicly available and known, relate to an ongoing situation in Los Angeles, which could expand to other places. But it's quite easy to point out that there has been an invasion of 21 million illegals in our country under the previous administration.
So
this
what?
administration was elected
Can we
to
take
get a
turns?
hold of that.
Fuck off.
And
It
when you
wasn't
have
21
ICE
million. That is
officers being attacked
bullshit.
with
You guys
concrete
fucking change the
blocks,
number every
Secretary,
fucking
they should be
time.
allowed to do their job.
Secretary, I'd really like to not try to create a viral moment for either of us. I'm actually trying to understand kind of the scope of this order. The order effectuates the ability to mobilize the Guard and the Marines. In the order, it does not specify a location. It does not specify which Marines or which Guard. And I'm trying to figure out, if you decided to do this collectively in Kansas or any other place, would you need to specify a new sort of fact pattern? Or do you think this order applies to any Guard, anywhere, any service branch, anywhere? It's just I get your justification. We disagree about the circumstances. I'm just trying to figure out, did you just potentially mobilize every Guard everywhere and every service member everywhere? I mean, create the framework for that. I understand you didn't. I'm saying, what does the document do, in your opinion?
Senator, if you notice, the initial order of 2,000 in California was followed by a follow-on order for the additional 2,000, with a recognition that the situation there required more resources in order to support law enforcement. So part of it is getting ahead of a problem, so that if in other places, if there are other riots in places where law enforcement officers
Knock
are
yourself
threatened,
out, baby.
we would have the capability
Knock your
to
fucking
surge
self
National
out.
Guard there if necessary. And thankfully, in most of those states, you'd have a governor that recognizes the need for it, supports it, and mobilizes it him or herself. In California, unfortunately, the governor wants to play politics with it.
I did step on the last part of your sentence, so I'm going to try to take turns here. Just on the 747 question, did the Department of Defense initiate the conversation with the Qataris? Did they initiate the conversation? How did that go?
Senator, I have to go back and review it, but we've been a part of the ongoing conversation.
Yeah, but I think it kind of matters who's asking, doesn't it?
Ultimately, the Defense Department is, or soon will be, when the memorandum of understanding is signed, in receipt of a gift from the Qatari government that could serve, once it's modified, eventually as something that the president could use.
I mean, I think this is illegal and unconstitutional, and I won't rant about that, but I actually think from the standpoint of our collective responsibilities, it very much matters what the paper flow was, who started these conversations. Did it come out of the White House? Did it come out of the Secretary of State or the President or the SecDef or at a lower level or ambassadors? Like, we're entitled to know, because we can agree or disagree about the propriety of this. But my basic
I'm sorry, Gene. I don't know the story well enough to give a real shorty short of it.
Disagree with the same set of facts. Let's have the documentation on the Qatari aircraft. Let's have the same set of documentation about what these orders do and don't do with respect to Los Angeles. Because if we're just going to scream past each other and then see who succeeds more on the internet, that's actually not the way to do this work. We're supposed to be in struggle against each other, but in a way where we actually have all the information. You have our information, we have yours, and so I'm hoping that we can get some documentation about both matters in a nonpartisan, bipartisan way. Thank you.
Senator Bozeman and Senator Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. Thank you for your service to our country. Mr. Secretary, Ebbing Air National Guard Base in Fort Smith, Arkansas, is the home to the F-35 Foreign Military Sales Pilot Training Mission. They recently graduated the first 2 Polish pilots, an accomplishment we're very excited to see repeated. Mr. Secretary, can you explain the importance of training our partners and allies on American systems and how that enables mission readiness and deterrence around the world?
Senator, it's a great question and a great point. Our ability to project power by, with, and through allies is one of the most important force multipliers that we have, including not
And
just
why are we trying to
these
say we'll
sophisticated
invade
platforms
them
like the
or
F-35,
their
but
friends?
the training of their people, and including something we're putting a lot of emphasis on, which is military to military training, which creates enduring bonds over generations that we're then able to leverage for future capability.
Oh, so are you going to
So
shit
I'm
on
encouraged
those?
to hear about those 2 graduations. I know it's a program we're investing in. I know it keeps our defense industrial base robust. It also projects capabilities to allies and partners. So that's a program we're aware of. We think is very important, and appreciate you raising it.
Very good. General Kane, we've seen how quickly munitions are expended in high-intensity conflicts like in Ukraine and Israel. How vital sustained supply chains are in modern conflict, the importance. I had the opportunity of taking your predecessor into Camden, Arkansas.
God.
Yes, sir.
Force
To see the great
multiplier.
work our
Well, we'll run
industry
it up the flagpole.
partners are doing to help solve the problem. However, the department's organic industrial base also fills important capability gaps. Do you believe the department's organic industrial base meets our munition needs? And if not, where can we invest more to fix that?
So I appreciate the question, especially about munitions. You know, one of my jobs as the chairman is to make sure that the youngsters have the combat capability that they need at scale before they need it. So I appreciate the committee and the Congress's investment in the defense side of the munitions build base. My hope is, as I've talked about with some of the committee leadership before, is that we can raise everybody's capacity. Do that through changing the culture in not only the munitions production, but across the entire national and defense industrial base. Encourage competition to keep the prices down, write better contracts, and increase the overall capacity. So I appreciate your investment in the government side. I hope we can continue to grow the private side as well, not just here, but also in our closest allies and partners. It's an important issue, sir. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Secretary, while Ukraine's Operation Spiderweb was a success, it also highlighted just how vulnerable our installations remain to potential attacks, particularly from emerging threats. Putting on my Milcon chair hat for a second,
BRB.
How does this operation change the way we think about installation security, survivability?
It's an excellent point, sir. I will say that even before that operation, it's something we've put on the forefront of our planning, of the conversations the chairman and I have on a regular basis. It's force protection, forward deployed, but then it's also a recognition here in the States. It's cheaper, attritable, commercially available drones with small explosives represent a new threat, as was exemplified in that operation. That day, we met and our staffs met to reevaluate and ensure we're doing enough and to get a full layout once again of the force protection CONUS and OCONUS to see what systems we have and which ones we need and which ones we can fast forward so that our troops are protected. First and foremost, forward deployed. That's the question about from Ukraine to there as part of that, but also in our homeland. And that will be part of Golden Dome also, the reality of drones of different types. But it's a critical reality of the modern battlefield that we have a responsibility to address.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Senator Shaheen, followed by Senator Capito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, General Kane, welcome. Thank you for being here. Both of you mentioned in your opening remarks the challenges with our defense industrial base. And General Kane, as you think about that, how do lead times for the defense industrial base affect your ability to resource worldwide operations? And are you concerned about those delays?
Well, Senator, thanks for the question. And I recall our conversation prior to my confirmation about my opportunity to run a manufacturing business earlier in my life. And, you know, the importance of decreasing lead time in order to backfill the magazine stores if we were to get into a high-end conflict anywhere in the world will be really important. And as the Secretary and I consider what does the force of the future require for the munitions, I'm always thinking about lead time and what has to be true to solve the problem of shortening that lead time and frankly also lowering the cost to the taxpayer while assuring the quality that we need out at the tactical edge. So it's a key portion, ma'am.
Mr. Secretary, when you were asked about the impact of President Trump's tariffs under Section 232 on the defense industrial base, you commented that you're in the business of tanks, not trade. But you can't buy tanks without trade. And the administration's steel and aluminum tariffs are having an impact on the lead times for our defense industrial base. I've visited companies in New Hampshire whose lead time has gone from weeks to years because of those steel tariffs. So how does the department address that? I asked this question of Secretary Ludnick at the Commerce hearing because he was talking about the benefit of those tariffs. But in the short term, I asked him if he had notified DOD about the tariffs because clearly it's going to have an impact on our defense industrial base. So did the Secretary raise that with you and with the Department of Defense? And how did you respond, and how are you addressing the impact on DOD and the defense base because of those tariffs?
Secretary Lutnick and I have had multiple conversations about this, and I'm grateful that he is leading the charge on rebalancing our trade relationships. And a big part of one of the things, complicating factors we face at the Defense Department is critical systems, whether they're tanks or munitions, you name it, that are reliant on supply chains elsewhere. And rebalancing that trade relationship means you're bringing industry home, you're bringing capabilities home.
I understand.
Right now we have a lot of vulnerabilities
in the long term
on that.
How the benefits accrue, but in the short term, how are you addressing that issue? Because there are short-term impacts. And how are we going to address that if we need munitions or tanks or whatever it is, and we don't have the steel and aluminum because of the tariffs?
I would first say, Senator, that somebody had to stand up and say stop on this cycle of sourcing elsewhere and relying on supply chains elsewhere and allowing for unfair trade balances. And that's what President Trump and Secretary Lutnick have done. So somebody had to do that. But at the same time, yes, we are working.
How are you dealing with the short term?
In the short term, we're working very hard on the commercial side with allies and partners, other places where we can source the materials necessary as fast as possible, commercially available, to address any shortfalls. But we're grateful for the fact that those trade relationships are being right-sized.
General Kane, earlier in
Who said Howard
conversation,
Nutlicker?
ISIS came up and the resurgence of ISIS in Syria, given the changes there, are a real concern. How important is it that you think we maintain troops on the ground to address any potential resurgence of ISIS?
Ma'am, I don't recall the conversation being linked to any particular part of the world.
It wasn't.
Yes,
it was
ma'am.
just about ISIS. But I'm asking you because
Yes, ma'am.
Syria is the most likely place for ISIS to resurge, and we know that there are cells there that are, we've seen it in the last few weeks where they attacked.
Yes, ma'am. I'd be happy to sit with you sometime in a different setting to talk about the CT threats and my views on them at the classified level. I think I'm actually somewhat hopeful around the pressure that we have against ISIS in Syria right now, given the change of government there through a unique set of circumstances that nobody could potentially.
I agree. My concern is the withdrawal of U.S. troops would provide an opening to ISIS.
Yes, ma'am. And of
Shoulder
course, I'll
pad check.
defer. That's a policy decision. They'll defer to the secretary.
Let me
Those
just
are definitely telling a
correct the
different
record
story.
here
Okay.
Before I close, I'm out of time. But Mr. Secretary, you pointed out that javelins were given to Ukraine during the first Trump administration, and I support that. But I would point out that he was impeached over holding up, giving those javelins and equipment to Ukraine. So I think as we look at the record, we ought to
Just
try and
reminding
be
you.
accurate about how we portray things. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Capito, Senator Murphy, and then Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Secretary Hegseth, and thank you, General, and thank all of the men and women every day that serve us and protect us. We're extremely grateful. Secretary Hegseth, you and your team are working on a national defense strategy. I'd be interested to know when you think you'll be coming forward with that. We know that the last year, the Commission on the National Defense Strategy found that, quote, there's a high probability that the next war will be fought across multiple theaters and would involve multiple adversaries. How are you thinking about these interconnected threats, and how will your national defense strategy establish a new force to meet those challenges? And when do you think that report will come forward?
Senator, it's the right question. It drives almost all of our decision-making, certainly on a topic related to budget. We did an interim national defense strategy almost immediately upon arriving because with a new administration, our planning guidance was from the previous administration that we think had the wrong priorities or some of the wrong priorities. And by issuing that interim national defense strategy, it allowed our building to plan around the priorities of President Trump. So that was, and that interim national defense strategy focused on defending the homeland, a recognition that that is important, our pacing threat in the Indo-Pacific, and then burden sharing for our allies and partners, making sure that they're stepping up so that we can focus where we need to. I would anticipate that our national defense strategy will include a lot of those ingredients, but more fully developed. I would expect late summer.
Okay.
Is if I were to put a pin on it. But that interim strategy has driven why we're investing, where we're investing, and I think driven a lot of difficult decisions. There are things in this budget that we have to address that have been deferred for a long time, that we're willing to say that may have been a fight for the last 20 years, but it's not as applicable to the long-range fight we think we may need to be a part of in the future, or it's not survivable given what we've seen in the last 3 years in Ukraine and the way the battlefield is changing. That's what I would hope the American people would expect from their department, leaning on the military expertise of our uniform class to try to get it right.
Thank you. We'll look forward to that report, and that leads me to my second question. And I'm interested in listening to all the questions that this hasn't been asked, and this is a question on space superiority. I mean, in my view, I think a powerful destabilizing force would be if China were to get the superior hand in space. General Saltzman has said that he feels that we do not have what we need to fight on our terms. So I would imagine in your national defense strategy, but also reflected in your budget, how does this match with the need for us to become space dominant?
I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to point out that it was President Trump that created the Space Force, when a lot of people said he shouldn't in his first administration.
What are they doing? Wait, I don't mind doing space stuff. I really don't. But who's that benefiting?
To implement something
really?
like the Golden Dome. We also are able to leverage world-class private companies that come alongside DOD to help us with that capability. Obviously,
men who really would just be happier if there were less people so that there's more for them.
Obviously, ways in which we're investing in this budget to ensure we maintain dominance in space. That is the frontier. That is a COCOM, if you will.
I really hope somebody does an expose of how far back we've been withheld because of billionaires trying to make the space program their own, like
military
cash
superiority
register.
that we could achieve in defensive capabilities in space, along with what's going to happen in the private sector. Because if we don't achieve this militarily or defensively, we're not going to be able to have the private sector superiority that we all enjoy in every facets of our life. So last question, you mentioned, and I'm very proud of this fact, that the recruiting goals that we've seen them
went
falling
over
short,
those
with the exception of Marine Corps. I
yesterday.
want to give them a shout out because they were meeting their goals. You
This
said that
started
they
in
are higher. So
2024.
I assume you have some of the statistics as to how much the recruitment is up. I'm curious to know for women, if the recruitment up for women and how you see that. Do you have the statistics?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was plenty of pre-criticism that certain groups would not be interested in joining the military in this environment. And we've seen the exact opposite.
What are you going to lie about?
Because for us, it's not about
Where's the
women
data?
or men or black or white. It's about we want the most qualified Americans
So what's your
possible.
data?
in our ranks who are ready
What's
to
the
go.
data?
And they have responded. So
What's the
across
data?
services, the Army's 4 months ahead. The Air Force
Yeah, I know.
is
They're
way
running
ahead.
they are
The
running
Navy's
at a
way
higher
ahead. And
pace.
this
It
is-
started in 2024, but okay.
We're going to meet goals well beyond the goals
isn't
that were
because
reduced
he's
by
there.
the previous administration because
Let's
they
put it
could
that
not
way.
recruit. So we're talking about
Nope, that's
far
actually not
surpassing,
true. Went up
anything
in
that was done.
2024
Is there one
versus
prevailing thought when
2023
you're
and
doing your
2023
active
versus
recruiting,
2022.
talking to recruit that's signing
Jesus
up?
Christ.
What's the difference?
Lies.
The difference is a commander-in-chief they believe in, Senator.
What? A political? They're political? They're political? They're political?
Murphy.
They're political? Wait, I thought they weren't political. I thought you weren't political.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here today. I wanted to build on some of the questions that Senator Schatz was asking, just to try to build a fact predicate for some of the tough spending decisions we're going to have to make here. Just to confirm, I heard you say with respect to the gift of the plane from Qatar that we do not yet have a signed MOU with the government of Qatar. Is that right?
Correct. We're in the process of working through that.
And did you also
We're
say we
sharing
don't
drafts.
have a signed contract with the company that is going to do the work? Or did you say that we have a contract, you're just not willing to disclose the terms?
The terms should not be disclosed of anything related to an
Not the
aircraft of this
question.
type.
So in 2018, when
Wait, you didn't get the
contract was
question
signed with
answered,
Boeing
Murphy.
to do the upgrades or the new contracts for Air Force One, the terms of that contract were disclosed. They were made public. In fact, it was the Trump administration
How about
that
signal chats? Wait,
issued
never
a
mind.
press release giving the total as $3.9 billion. Are you saying this time around, even after you sign the contract, you're not going to make public any of the terms of the contract?
I wasn't involved in that previous administration decision, but we're happy to take a look.
You heard that correct.
The Air Force testified before the House that that contract would likely deliver the new Air Force Ones by the 2028 timeframe. It doesn't stand to reason that you will be able to retrofit the plane from Qatar much sooner than 2028. So I'm trying to understand what the gap is that we're trying to fill.
Excellent question.
If this contract ends up being $500 million and the gap only ends up being 6 months, that doesn't sound like a wise investment for this committee to make.
Senator, I would defer to the expertise of the Air Force as far as timing of
You're
modifications.
the Secretary of
and when that would happen,
Defense.
but there's also been delay after delay after delay.
You're
on
the
Boeing
Secretary of
side,
Defense.
So I don't know that's a firm fixed date.
What is your
yet,
answer?
Unfortunately.
What is
can be
your
counted on.
answer?
So obviously the underlying question
how
here
about
is
the
what is going to
SACWA
happen to the
enforcement?
plane at the end of Trump's presidency. The president said on May 12th that this plane would be transferred to his presidential library at the end of his term. Is that your understanding of what is going to happen to this plane?
The president said that. That's my understanding. Although I would look at
So
what
we're
comes
going
out
to
of
use
the
this
MOU.
plane for 6 months?
Why would we ask the American taxpayer to spend upwards of $1 billion on a plane that would then only be used for a handful of months and then transferred directly to the president?
Excuse me.
That doesn't sound like a wise use of taxpayer dollars.
Right.
A lot of the capabilities, as you know, Senator, of that particular platform are and should remain classified. So there are reasons why you might modify, even for a short period of time, an aircraft to ensure the safety and security of
Okay, that's not the
President of United
question.
States.
You're reframing the question,
When do
you
believe
stupid
that those upgrades be
penis
made?
breath.
How long would the president have it before it got transferred to his personal possession?
I would throat punch him if
That
I
would be a
could get away with
determination
it,
of the Air
Adriana.
Force that would
Don't even
take
think
hold of
twice
it
about it.
and make those modifications within whatever time window they believe gets it to the place where it need to be.
Yeah,
And then we're going to use it for a
think
couple
this is
months and then what?
extraordinary, Mr. Chairman, we're talking about a
Yeah.
pretty massive investment of appropriations
And
dollars
national
into a plane
security.
that the Secretary is saying
This is crazy,
is currently
people.
planned to be
This is
transferred
insane.
personally to the president. There's a lot of other pending needs that we need to fund. This would seem to be low on the list. Mr. Secretary, one final question.
Wow.
Obviously, you know that there is a concern in the public about a double standard that is applied to protest, sometimes protest that turns violent. The president, when he came into office, issued pardons to the individuals that attacked the United States
Protest with
Capitol, including
dinosaurs.
those
Is that what you were
individuals
going to say, Senator
who
Murphy?
beat savagely
Please?
police officers. You have deployed the National Guard and readied Marines in a way that many people think is unnecessary given the state and the local resources. So maybe let me ask the question this way so that you can assuage people's concerns that there is a double standard. The National Guard was deployed here on January 6th, and that was a decision made by the Department of Defense. Do you support that decision? Do you believe that that was the right decision to deploy the National Guard to defend the Capitol on January 6th?
All I know is it's the right decision to be deploying the National Guard in Los Angeles to defend ICE agents who deserve to be defended in the execution of their jobs.
I think it's important to know whether you think it was also important to have the National Guard defending the United States Capitol when there were violent protesters here on the president's behalf, to make sure that folks know that you care about protest, whether it's against the president or on behalf of the president.
Senator, I was in the Washington, D.C. National Guard when that happened, and
then
was,
where the fuck were you?
Initially ordered to go guard the inauguration of Joe Biden, but because of the politicization of the Biden administration,
no, because of your Nazi tattoos.
my orders were revoked.
No, it's because you have Nazi tattoos. Okay, don't get it twisted, baby. I understand it's real tempting. I get it, it's really tempting. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's because you have Nazi tattoos. Get over yourself. Iron cross my ass.
And ultimately, because of the politics that were being played inside the
Fuck
Defense Department by
you.
the previous administration.
Fuck you,
But you
dick.
support the
I
decision
wouldn't
made on
want you
January
to
6th
protect my
send the
fucking
National Guard here to
lawn
I support the
seed.
decision that President Trump made and requesting the National
don't-
Guard
so
was
you-
denied.
so you do not-
President Trump
you
did
do
not
not support the
requested
decision.
support.
No, he
Not
didn't.
support
You
the
big
decision to
fucking
send the
liar.
National Guard here
Denied.
to defend
You're
the
a big
Capitol.
fucking
I think
liar.
that speaks to the worry that many Americans have that there is a double standard, that you are not willing to defend against attacks made on our democracy by supporters of the president, but you are willing to deploy the National Guard to protect against protesters who are criticizing the president. That's not how our taxpayer dollars are supposed to work. They're supposed to be used to defend the United States, no matter the nature of the political affiliation of the protesters. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Senator Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to follow up on a couple of lines of questioning. Just specifically, Mr. Secretary, what is the authority that the administration is using to deploy active duty Marines to California neighborhoods? What authority?
Senator, the president has constitutional authority in order to support.
Which Constitution?
The provision of the Constitution.
I'd have to pull up these specific provisions.
You don't know it,
but
because it doesn't
our
exist.
Office of General Counsel, alongside our leadership, has reviewed and ensured in the order that we set out that it's completely constitutional for the president to use federal troops to defend federal law enforcement.
Look, I'd like to know the specific constitutional statutory authority. The president made it clear that he relied on Section 12406 of Title 10 with regard to the National Guard troops. I need to know the authority that he is relying upon in terms of active duty Marines being deployed to California neighborhoods.
Senator,
so you'll follow up with me?
Yes, Senator, but there's
Thank
plenty
you.
of precedent of active duty troops being used to support law enforcement. Historical precedent.
I'm not disputing that. I am just asking you to cite the authority under which the active duty Marines are being deployed to California
It's in the order, ma'am,
neighborhoods.
but we'll make sure we get it to you as well.
Thank you. I want to dovetail on a couple of other comments also with regard to the lack of specific detail in the budget request for the Department of Defense. I take great pride in Wisconsin's contributions to our national defense, and that includes many Wisconsinites who are hard at work building the Constellation-class frigate.
Thank you, Clayburgh, for this
There
GIF.
is no mention of frigate procurement, just like Senator Collins noted that there's no mention of destroyer procurement in the budget materials that you provided to this committee. My state makes the frigate. I'd also note that there's no mention of the destroyers, as I said. So really, we are looking at a very incomplete budget request when we are just 4 months out from the beginning of the next fiscal year. Mr. Secretary, this committee takes the appropriations process seriously. I take the hard work of Wisconsin's shipbuilders
Oh my gosh, Gal, I'm
seriously,
sorry.
and I'd like your
Gal,
commitment
thank you for
to
those
provide
gifs.
this
I love
material
you.
to the committee
Those are so much
expeditiously so
fun.
we can do our work.
Senator, we'll make sure you get all the information, but what I would say is this is a historic investment in shipbuilding.
There's two.
Both the Defense Industrial Base and ships. In Wisconsin, and particularly related to the frigate, it's been a program with a lot of problems and a lot of delays and a lot of modifications that have led to serious
Navy
challenges.
has called for many modifications to the plan that has.
I'm not saying that's it's all the fault of the shipyard.
It's
There
my
are many
beautiful
ways in
friends.
which modifications were made that changed an existing design so extensively that it led to a ship that was not even capable of the original mission it was supposed to execute. So our job is to make tough choices on some platforms like that may not be funded the way they were in the past, because we have to make some of those tough choices.
Well, we don't have any of the detail right now of what your plans are with regard to the frigate or the destroyer, and we need that information to do our jobs. Can you get it to me?
We have that information, Senator. We have worked in real time in 4 months to reverse a lot of priorities from the previous administration. We have those details and that information, and we will get it to you.
Well, the committee needs those details. So this committee has also worked hard alongside the department to improve recruitment and meet retention goals. The department is planning to separate several thousand service members due to your partisan beliefs about troops who are transgender. Mr. Secretary, I've seen your speeches and social media posts, but what I'm interested in is the sound policy analysis that we would expect from the Secretary of Defense on how this misguided decision will impact military readiness. My colleagues and I have requested this information from you, and we are still waiting to receive it. And so I will ask you now, what assessment did the Department of Defense conduct prior to implementation to evaluate the impact that this policy would have on our national security? Moreover, what is the cost to recruit and train thousands of individuals of comparable experience and skill?
Thankfully, recruiting is not an issue. It's at historically high levels, and we're proud of the cross-section of Americans that are joining.
What analysis did you do?
We did extensive analysis.
Extensive.
Senator, and we agree
You know
with the
that
assessment
kind?
of the executive order that
Are you
was issued
familiar
by
with
the
that,
White House,
ma'am?
that there are mental health issues associated with gender dysphoria
What?
that complicate military service and
What?
readiness, and as a result, we made the decision.
I have asked for that analysis. Please provide it to
There
me and the
isn't
committee.
any.
We will provide it.
And then, Mr. Secretary,
Oh
I
my
think
God,
we can
this
all
is how
agree
they
that
get
we are
away
at a
with all
critical
this shit,
point
you
in our
guys.
history with respect to global threats that need
He's never going to get back to
counter
her on that.
adversaries like China and Iran. You've gotten a number of questions
God damn
along
it.
those lines.
I hate these
And
people
I'm
so
disappointed
fucking
that
much.
you are
I am glad
instead
she put him on the
focusing
record.
a class of ships named for civil rights leaders.
Blame it on the
You chose Pride
alcohol.
Month to direct the Navy to rename a ship named for Navy veteran Harvey Milk. This committee will continue to pursue serious work in the interests of American national security, and I ask you to choose to join us in that endeavor.
Senator, we're not interested in naming ships after activists. That's the stance we're taking.
What?
All right.
Oh my God, I hate him so much. I just want someone to come down and put a lightning bolt through his fucking thin ass skull.
Right near the end, Mr. Secretary, we're going to call on Senator Murkowski, and at that point, the hearing will
Are you still
conclude, and
alive?
if anybody has additional
Yeah, I'm not
questions
listening to
for the
Murkowski.
record,
Go fuck yourself. Are you still, how are you still alive, sir? How are you still alive, Mitch, the bitch? Why don't you go die in a Kentucky fucking whiskey barrel or something? Why don't they go drown themselves? Divine violence, sometimes it could work. I don't know, maybe not. But it sure would feel good. I'm sorry. If you're that evil, if you're that fucking abjectly evil, you don't get my pity. The hell are you thinking? It's absolutely the cruelty of this administration and their fucking employees is absolutely mesmerizing to me. And I wish I'm going to show one last video, and it's not a good one, but I think the chuds need to see what actually happens. Where I put that. That's not it. Hold on, this is important. Trust me, you're gonna understand why. Just give me a second. But oh, I know it's in the watch later. Okay, this is a minute and a half. This was posted 9 hours ago by the Fox 11 station here in Los Angeles. And I want all of the chuds who make joke after joke. This may not impact you at all. In fact, it probably won't. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is why I say the things that I do to maggots and chuds. Because you people don't fucking care about the suffering of anyone. I don't know what political party this 7-year-old boy belongs to. But I think you should watch what he has to say about this.
7-year-old Jorge Vasquez cried uncontrollably as he watched ICE agents take his father away in handcuffs. His 15-year-old brother Brian yelled, "I'll see you soon, Dad."
I lost all I feel is sad. I can't live peacefully without my dad.
48-year-old Arturo Vasquez was taken into custody by ICE agents on Sunday, June 8th, around 2:25 p.m. at the Culver City Car Wash, where he was with his family. Over the weekend, several ICE raids targeted car washes. But Arturo didn't work there. He was simply there to wash his car.
It was normal people working their jobs, trying to provide for their own families to have a better life.
Brian admits his father is undocumented. He says when ICE agents showed up at the car wash, his father panicked and tried to leave. But agents stopped him and took him into custody. Witnesses at the car wash were furious.
Doing that to that child like that.
I know, that's sad.
I don't want to go out anymore because I'm afraid that I'm being followed or I will get detained, even though I'm a U.S. citizen. That's why now I carry on my passport and my ID. All I want right now is my dad here home.
So yeah. If you want to know why I shake when I talk or when I scream at people or when I'm so angry, yeah, I know that's my thing and I probably should be a little nicer or I shouldn't scream so much, but I can't tell you just how much this feels like, what this feels like. And it has nothing to do with my family. But you don't have to be like directly impacted by something to see how it's impacting people around you in your neighborhoods. And the reason the National Guard and the Marines and shit come isn't because we're too violent or anybody's too violent, even the kids at night. It's not because they're too violent. It's so that they can continue to do raids while we're in the street, which is what they did yesterday. I'm sorry. I know this isn't my, like, but I'm just trying to tell you, like, this feels like so much scarier than people might understand. So I'm not trying to, like, get all cheesy, but I'm just telling you, like, I don't know how you can hear a child cry like that. And not see that something is very, very, very wrong. Unless you're just so cruel and so in pain and so aggrieved that somehow you've decided not to care about anybody but yourselves. And guess what? You're not going to be immune to whatever it is that this government wants to fucking do with you. I don't give a shit if Brian Wilson died. Oh my God. People are being kidnapped. The man that you just heard about, the report follow-up was that he's now in a Texas detention center. He didn't commit any crimes. Except for being illegal. Like, what the fuck? It's not about me. It's not about me. I know this is, like, ridiculous, and that's me. I'm a crier. It's not about me. But it's about, like, breaking the alarm, breaking the glass, sounding alarms that this is getting worse. And they're using the time while we talk about it and while people file injunctions and all the rest of the shit, they're using all that time to just keep doing this shit. This isn't what happens in this country. I don't care who you are. This should not happen in any country. I just don't even care who you voted for. Come on. That's why I'm still going to say it. This is such an important moment. This is really an important moment because Los Angeles is just the first city that's going to have all this shit on them. Now they're sending them to others, right? Now they're sending these forces to other cities and other nonsense. That's why it's so important that Los Angeles stand up for what is happening here and say, no, no, stand down. None of this would have happened. This is completely created by this administration. Prior to the ICE raids, Los Angeles was fine. Its usual dysfunctional, beautiful self. Okay, I'm going to stop. I know, I love you guys. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you do so much to stop this and make people feel like understand, you know. Well, I'm going to be in Beverly Hills on Saturday. Anybody want to join me? Come on down. It'll be easy to find. So I'm going to take the dinosaur to Beverly Hills because there's a lot of maggots over there. All right. Well, I think this is good enough. I've done enough. Now I've done enough. Now you've done enough. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for caring so much about other people. Thanks for all of that, because fuck that matters. Really, fuck that matters. Yeah, I know. Governorship. It really matters how much people care, how much they show and talk about and break myths and, correct narratives and stuff like that. And you know what? Go ahead and just fucking do your best. Tell me I'm old. Tell me I'm fat. Tell me I'm stupid. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm whatever you want to tell me. Because none of this is about me. None of this is about me. This is about that 7-year-old boy. It really is. I'm not even being cheesy. I'm telling you, that's exactly who this is all about. And that's not okay. I don't care. I don't care. It's just not okay. It's not okay. Right? Like, fucking figure out immigration, do the hard work, but stop this nonsense of letting this administration yield this kind of fear and power over people who have done nothing wrong. I heard, Teresa, Abbott is sending the National Guard to San Antonio. I mean, I feel like I'm screaming this, from the rooftops, which is kind of stupid. But it's like, I'm telling you right now, just the limited time this weekend that I was in the protests, this is completely manufactured on part of federal forces. And I'm not talking about the National Guard and the Marines who haven't even shown up yet, by the way. And as I showed you from Gal, they haven't even trained for what they're supposed to be doing here. So the Marines are not even on the table yet. I'm not even talking about the National Guard. They're doing what they're told to do. It's the DHS police. Those are the ones with the itchy trigger fingers. Those are the ones provoking the violence in the crowds. And then you have the normal situation of Los Angeles at night with kids, with lots of cops, with lots of chaos, and, them being able to do whatever, motivates them. Like, I'm not here. I don't give a shit about a car. I don't give a shit about a building. I don't give a shit about a police cruiser. I don't give a shit about any of that. I actually don't even give a shit about a store. I don't want to see any small business owner struggle. At the same time, I'm sorry, 7-year-old boy. Because guess what? The history of protest in this country, unfortunately, does include violence. And I'm sorry to say that, and I'm sorry everybody's so delicate about it, but that is what it is. So guess what? If you don't want property destroyed because of this, then stand with people. And then the violence ends. But I'm going to tell you right now, Angelenos are not the drama. Angelenos are not the drama. Don't put your fucking police cruiser where you've driven people to surround an overpass. You put them there. You kettled us there. Don't expect some, opportunist to be like, drop a firework in your car. Oh, and guess what? Angelenos set off fireworks all the time. LAPD know how to handle it. Fucking sheriffs know how to handle it. They do their shitty job most of the time, but whatever. It's the DHS police, the FBI, the Border Patrol police, ICE that are executing these raids and attacking protesters that are the drama, not us. Don't let them tell lies. All right. Okay, I'm sorry. I am sorry for kind of losing my shit, but I really debated on whether or not I wanted to play that. But damn it, I think we need to be shocked into what the fuck is actually happening and what this means, and that it's not just some headline somewhere, or a random story, like about a person we'll never know or we'll never meet, or we don't even know their last name. You know what I mean? It's not just a random story. It's fucking happening all over this city. And it's bullshit. And just the mere specter of having people come into your, get you when you're getting your car washed with your family on a Sunday. Because you work 2 jobs, so Sunday's really the only time you guys have to do whatever chores you want to do and be together. Wow, that's the kind of guy. I want that guy as my neighbor. And fix immigration. Absolutely. People should not have to wait or struggle so long to become citizens of the United States. It's ridiculous. But do you notice they're doing fuck all to fix that and make it faster? Yeah, I know. I can't talk. I can't listen to her right now. I might actually just throw the computer. Well, I hope you have a really good Wednesday. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for caring, and thanks for sharing and all the things, because it really is important. And I really feel that it's a very urgent moment for all of us. So I hope we make it on the other side with some progress. Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you guys. I'm not going to probably be protesting at least today, maybe even tomorrow. We'll see. We've got a show tomorrow planned too. So the next time you might see the dinosaur might be Saturday, but I'll play it by ear. It just matters if my body's able to figure it out. And they refused the bipartisan bill to deal with the border. Don't forget, it was a bipartisan bill. Langford. All right. Anyway, I love you guys. I love you. Yeah, really. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the support. Oh my God, you guys, we're doing it. We're getting the word out. Media literacy, stand up for each other. Those are the messages we want to push out, and we're doing it. Tom, look at Tom. Tom and I have hoped beyond hope to grow the channel and like get more eyeballs on these stories. And here we're doing it, Tom. Woo! I feel like this is a total group effort. Like this entire group has been part of like, you know, making this happen and just getting us to that next step and that next step. And man, let's just keep going. And you know what? Get all the dinosaurs out there. I don't even care. I don't even care. Oh my God, how many views? That was ridiculous, wasn't it? Although it's because it's vertical, you guys. So when it's vertical, it just gets, everything counts as a view or something, even if you like scroll by it or something dumb. So it's it's a little bit different, you know, like, although don't get me wrong, it's by far the highest number of views I've ever gotten on anything. That's for dang sure. Oh, I have other things there. I don't know. Well, there's so many of them. Well, it's about, I think it's like, it's over 11,000 views. It's over 11,000. But you know, I think that happens in like the vertical thing, and then it'll drop off. It probably won't get many more views. 11,780. Just one more than we need. Both Oomph and Max Flower making the most of that joke. Anyway, thanks guys. Thanks for all the love and the support and just being here, you know, not even if you're not like, I don't love you, but you know, but just thanks for being here. Okay, I'm going to leave you alone. I'm sorry. I just now I'm just babbling. Okay. See you tomorrow morning.